Hi everyone, I'm Asmo and today I have for you a speedrun / race practice commentary showing you how I managed to kill Act 3 Doryani in less than 3 hours on a monk in a fresh start solo self-found environment. I recently got into speedrunning and racing in Path of Exile 2 and decided to participate in the Act 3 Doryani races, where the objective is to just kill the last boss of Act 3 as fast as possible, and I finished top 15 overall despite having horrendous RNG and a run that is half an hour slower than my practice times. But that's just how races work. You need a combination of skill and some luck, but the skill is definitely the biggest factor. So in this video, I'm going to teach you a lot about speedrunning the campaign on every class, as well as some specific monk tips. And I will also post a mobalytics guide that will be linked in the description explaining the monk setup step by step, so you can just copy that for your practice. So let's get started. I'm going to let this run play while I share with you everything I've learned about leveling and progressing fast in PoE and just give you my commentary. So I'm playing with the mouse and keyboard setup. Most speedrunners and racers, as far as I know, play with the WASD setup. The WASD is something that is a little bit easier to start with, but they both have their advantages and disadvantages. So you can play whichever one you prefer. I think they are both viable. The WASD limits you in terms of how you can walk. You can only walk in, I think, 8 directions, right? It's like up, down, right, left, and in between of those if you hold 2 buttons at the same time. And with mouse you have infinite basically freedom of movement. However, with the keyboard there are some things where you can move at the same time while managing your inventory a little bit easier. With mouse you can do the same, but it's a little bit harder, because you have to assign a different key that is not your left mouse button for a movement only. And I have that on D on the secondary bar. You're gonna see, I'm gonna try to explain. I'm setting some skills require you to, for example, set it on attack without moving. On monk, I recommend setting the auto attack on attack without moving. Otherwise, it's a little bit tricky, especially skills that you're gonna use when surrounded, and you might, they might lock you to a specific target, and while you're surrounded, you cannot move your character, and then the skill therefore doesn't go off, right? So if you need the skill to be used in that situation, definitely put it on attack without moving. Some skills don't do that with, because you want your character to actually move forward while using the skill, like, for example, Ice Strike, as you're gonna later see. So I'm gonna try to give as much detail as possible, like a maximum detail. So here, basically you're using your auto attack, which has higher DPS as much as possible, and then the AoE skill, the Falling Thunder, to kill the zombies. We have a weapon that is a blue weapon that has flat, I think, physical or cold, and +2 levels, which is probably BIS in terms of damage, but with +2 levels, if you have like more than +1 to levels on a monk, you're gonna have mana issues. So you can see I'm very quickly making Glacial Cascade, removing the other skill. Like, that was very, very quick inventory management, very quick shop management. This is something that you want to learn, basically how many times you need to press space. I know I need to press space like 3 times to get to the right dialogue to get the skill gem. You can also get skill gems in and out of the menu by control clicking them. So if you have the skill gem menu open and you have your inventory open, you can control click the gems back and forth, right? Which makes it a little bit faster. You can also control click while engraving gems to skip some of the confirmation menus, right? That makes it a little bit faster. I know that the Frost Bomb is going to be something that I'm not going to add any support gems, so I already put it down and make it so that I don't have to I don't have to see it while seeing the other skill gems, because I want to open the menu and immediately I have other skill gems there so that I can put the supports. Here, fighting Beira, I'm fighting her normally after the Devourer, but because I have a good weapon, I'm doing it right away. If you don't have a good weapon, if you just have a white staff or white weapon, I would recommend just grabbing the checkpoint here, going to the Devourer, killing the Devourer, then you're going to have a support gem and you're going to basically do 40% more damage with the conk effect on Glacial Cascade. But because I have a good weapon, I know I'm gonna do her very quickly, so that's why I did that. You don't want to kill much in the early zones. In general, you want to be under leveled as quickly as possible. You want to basically be like 3 levels under the level of the zone, so that you fight the highest level of monsters possible without getting any XP penalty for the first 16 levels. So the way you want to look at it is basically in Act 1, you can be 3 levels below the zone. So in zone level 15, you can be, let's say, level 12, right? And then you're going to be getting full XP. And then in Act 2, you can be 4 levels below the zone, and in Act 3, you can be 5 levels below the zone, because it's roughly every 16 levels, right, that it changes. So at level 16, that's gonna be like beginning of Act 2, and then level 32, that's gonna be roughly beginning of Act 3. So that's how it works. Here, I'm only killing stuff because it's literally on my way, but I do like hitting level 3 very early, because then I can use the level 2 skill gem that we're gonna be getting. So for the Devour, with this setup, we have a Frost Bomb and we have Glacial Cascade. We want to put the Frost Bomb on cooldown as much as possible on the boss, and then we want a Glacial Cascade max range so that the end of it hits, because it does more damage, right? So we want to hit with the tip of our Glacial Cascade, which is a little bit tricky, and I definitely didn't want to use it on mouse and keyboard, but it is just a superior skill. Like auto attack is completely fine to kill this, but this is faster, right? It saves a few seconds, and it's all about saving a few seconds here and there, right? So we're making sure to keep up the Frost Bomb as well as the Frost Bomb debuff, which is the right debuff that you can see under the name of the Devourer. And because I have a good weapon, this is very smooth, but I would run out of mana very quickly on this. You can see like my mana is getting drained very quickly when I use the skill, but this is a very clean fight because we already have a good weapon. Normally you don't have that weapon and it takes longer, and if you run out of mana, or if you are being surrounded by a lot of the worms, then you want to make sure that you put Frost Bomb on the boss, and you go in the melee range, and you just kill the guy with auto attacks. So here I'm IDing, especially rare items are worth IDing, and items that are magic that you potentially could wear. So if there's an item like I would never wear, like a blue bow, I don't need to ID that, because I'm actually not gaining gold from that, because I have to spend 25 on a wisdom scroll, but the rare item will actually be worth identifying. Certain things like belts might also be worth identifying, right? Here I had 2 shields in the vendor that had strength, but I picked the shield with that is hybrid. I think it's like armor and evasion or armor energy shield, whatever, because that slows you less, right? The pure armor bases slow you more for shields and body armors than hybrid bases. So like evasion energy shield, evasion armor energy shield is better on this, at least on this class, than the pure armor bases, because the pure armor bases slow you a little bit more. It's like a hidden modifier, right? That is a movement speed penalty. So now I have a Frozen Locus, and Frozen Locus is has advantage over Contagion. ED Contagion is a setup that a lot of people use that is great for clear, it's great for XPing, and it saves you time because you just run through and it does its job right on its own. But the Glacial Cascade Frozen Locus is a safer combo, and you can XP just as much because you are doing damage all the time while moving. So I like this setup, and I'm gonna explain different areas where it's actually superior to the ED Contagion, which you're gonna see later. That's why I'm going with this. It is safer for sure, right, than ED Contagion, especially in like the Count's manner, right? Whenever you get like the Herald of Ice, then it becomes amazing, right? So we're getting Martial Tempo here. So we have Glacial Cascade with Martial Tempo and Conk Effect, and that's our damage here. And it does a lot of damage. Of course, we want to hit with the max range. And since I got a level 2 skill gem, I'm upgrading my Glacial Cascade as well to do more damage. So the pattern while I'm running here is basically I'm using the Frozen Locus behind me. So I'm continuing moving forward. And then I'm shooting the Glacial Cascade backwards, right? So it doesn't look like I'm killing that much because a lot of the hits are not killing the monsters, but they're getting lower and I'm killing a couple. And then the other ones are getting lower. And then next time I hit, I'm killing them, right? So it ends up working just fine, and it ends up so that over time you kill the monsters, but you are doing it while moving, right? Which is why this actually works, right? Like Contagion Frostbomb is also a good combo here. Hollow Palm with the Falling Thunder is also okay, but they are not as safe as this one, because this one you're gonna see later, it synergizes with a lot of different things like the Herald, and it makes you pop the packs super quickly, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I like it more. I prefer it to ED Contagion, because ED Contagion also makes you lose a skill gem, and I don't want to lose that skill gem because I want to have as many bells as possible, as early as possible. But yeah, we're entering here at 8:15 into the Red Veil, which is a really good time for me. It's a good start because we had a good weapon at the beginning. And this is the first zone that I highly recommend learning layouts. Like if you go to the to my Twitch and you type in the Twitch chat ! what was it? Exclamation mark layouts, right? Whenever I'm streaming. So like follow my channel whenever I'm streaming, just type exclamation mark layouts, and it's going to link you, or just find it on your own, the Discord for the Campaign Codex Discord. And it has layout guides for the Red Veil and for the Grim Tangle that are very good, that I highly recommend. So I know this layout exactly. This is the forced left, and it forces me to go here. So I know exactly where the checkpoint will be. And if I know that I'm going to be encountering a checkpoint soon, that's when I swap my flasks to the medium ones if I have the level. So ED Contagion, or just like Contagion and Frost Bomb here, are very good for clearing, and they are a little bit faster and give you a little bit more XP in this zone. But it's a small difference that later you lose in the manor, and it basically makes you more likely to die in other areas if you rely on that, right? So I'm making sure to organize the inventory. The early checkpoint, like the breakpoints, or like the important things that I need early on, that I'm highly looking for are weapon and a shield with strength, ideally, right? Because I have a weapon with a shield, and if I have a shield with strength, like both with strength, I will be able to use shield charge as early as possible and then speed myself up, and then later also have them for leap stun. So weapon with a shield, like an early one-handed mace, with strength roll on it, is highly like desirable, like very important. Ideally like 8 strength on a single-handed mace. It's like, that's my end game one-handed weapon. It's gonna free up so much, like in terms of attributes and passives for me, that is very important. So I have a regex that I'm searching for items with in vendors. So whenever I'm at a vendor, you're gonna notice I do like Control F, Control V, and paste a string. I have 2 of those. They're gonna be in the description, and I'm gonna also put them in the Mobalytics guide. So in the Mobalytics guide, I'll show you the rejects, I'll show you the gems, I'll put everything there so that you can just follow it, so you don't have to remember everything I'm talking about. Just like basically try to get the big picture and like different ideas related to certain areas from this video. And the setup is gonna be in the Mobalytics guide, so you can just check it out there and see exactly what I'm using and what gems I'm using. Here I saw there's like a huge amount of monsters on top, and I want to XP a little bit because it's a pretty efficient zone for XPing, so I can run through the couple of later zones without killing that much. So I'm basically just killing a bunch of monsters here. I know the checkpoints is not here because it should be more to the right, or like slightly down. That's where the last one will be, but it allows me to hit the level. I have extra damage for the boss fight now, and because I have the weapon with +2, I'm actually swapping my supports, and I'm gonna go with auto attack, because auto attack, the quarterstaff strike, also gets levels from the +2 levels of skills, even though it's not a skill gem, but it still benefits from +2 levels, but it doesn't cost mana. So it's a little bit more safe, because I was afraid of potentially running out of mana and then having to swap the gems, and it will be really annoying. So I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna auto attack this guy, put added cold, or like cold infusion, because I found another support gem, so I have that extra. Could also put rage in there, right? That's another really good support that I'm gonna be using for my melee hits. But yeah, the Rust King, typically the way you want to fight him and any other boss in the early stages is you put a Frost Bomb, you Frozen Locus away from the guy, and then you start Glacial Cascading it, right? And you do a lot of damage that way, and the bosses are very easy to kill early on. I heard the commentary on the race, like the race commentary for the last race on the stream, on PathX stream by Raisin Ziggy, and they were talking about like Monk having very bad early game, and that's absolutely incorrect. Monk has good early game bossing. The bossing with Glacial Cascade and Frozen Locus and Frost Bomb early on is very comfortable if you have like good movement and positioning, right? It's very easy. You don't need like to combine like a billion different skills or struggle with it. It's actually very easy. You can see I'm pasting the rejects here. I'm looking for the weapons, and here I see long staff with nice physical, and then I also rolled +1 with an augment, and that is better than the other stuff, and also it's gonna make me waste less mana, right? Because lower level, I'm gonna spend less mana. I had a run where I had like a weapon with +2 and gloves with +1, and I was fighting Doryani at the end, and I was absolutely running out of mana, like impossible to finish the fight, because you just like immediately run out of mana. The +2 levels scale the mana very hard, so you need to be careful for that. So this is like 13 minutes. We have to go to town talk to Una very quickly, skip through this as quickly as possible, pressing the left click and pressing the spacebar as fast as I can. And then we're going to the Grim Tangle and we want to talk to Una again. And then the moment she starts singing, we respawn at checkpoint and we basically skip the animation. We can move past. So this layout, you basically look at the orientation, it's going down, and then the waypoint is on the left side, as if you like look like in a straight line from the entrance. And that could be two layouts. One has like a loop in the direction that I'm going to, and so that's the first place I check, and the other one goes like straight down to the exit, and then on the left side will be the boss. But I know this layout exactly, so I know I need to do this little loop because I am going to kill the boss because I want the early support gems. Support gems early on, like the earlier you get them, the more power you have, and then later you can just zoom through. Also, killing bosses gives you decent loot, right? So it helps you gear up, and that's gonna save you time. A lot of the time in Path of Exile 1, for example, it is not worth killing rare monsters, but in Path of Exile 2, I find that killing rare monsters, unless they have like some absolute cancer modifiers like temporal bubble, proximal tangibility, surrounded by like some high damage ranged monsters or something, then maybe don't do that. But if you can kill the rare in a reasonable amount of time and you don't have your perfect gear setup and perfect amount of currency already, then do it, because that's gonna set you up for the rest of the run with the currency, like getting an Exalt, getting a Regal, getting a rare weapon, getting rare boots. There's so much that you can get from rare monsters, and most of your loot will be coming from rare monsters if you're actually killing them. So I definitely recommend killing rare mobs and trying to get good at it, trying to learn like your rotation, right? Like if you're using the bells, use the bells. If you're using this, like you can see how clean you go through this zone with this setup. With ED Contagion, if you have mobs that are attacking you, there is not that much you can do because you cannot freeze them reliably. And Frostbob is delayed, Contagion and Essence Drain is delayed, but with this setup, you basically frozen locus on top of them, and in tight spaces, it explodes immediately. And if there are frozen monsters on top of you and you use it, it also explodes immediately because there's something, it has something to do with like, there is not enough space for the frozen locus to spawn, so it explodes immediately, and it does damage immediately, and it freezes them. So it's very, very safe. It has nice AoE, it has nice amount of damage, scales with levels, so if you have +1 to levels on the weapon or +2 levels on the gloves, it's very, very good for the frozen locus, and that's why it's one of the priority of the upgrades in terms of like upgrading my gems if I have any extra gems that are dropping. So in general, the way I'm clearing here is I just drop a frost bomb ahead of me as I'm going. It has very fast cast time, and that starts ticking and debuffing the monsters. Then as I'm going through the pack, I frozen locus through them and try to go forward, and then I shoot the Glacial Cascade backwards, right? And that's basically how I do it. So here I see a rare mob because it has that green glow, which is like damage taken from minions. That's what this means. That's the effect of it. So I'm just basically gonna fight this guy. It's gonna give me a lot of XP, it's gonna give me a lot of loot, and I do want loot, right? In this run, I have, I would say, probably average RNG. I don't, for example, find movement speed boots in Act 1 at all, like no movement speed boots. My weapons are good, I would say, the whole run. But overall, I find very low amount of currency, like very low amount of exalts, very low amount of regals, very low amount of augments compared to like a normal run. Very low amount of artificer's orbs, right? So not much currency, very late movement speed boots, and just good weapons overall, right? Not like fantastically great weapons, but just like good. Like these weapons were good to play with, so I had no complaints. So I would say it's like an average run, something that you could pretty consistently do if you learn, right? You could consistently go to like around 3 hours or under 3 hours, because I think played time on this one is like 240 something, and then I died a bunch, right? You're gonna see some hilarious deaths in this because of course if you're pushing fast, right, sometimes there are gonna be hilarious deaths happening. So this is a guaranteed ring. It's like 50-50 iron or the mana ring. We get the lazuli ring, unfortunately, but you know, better any ring than no ring at all. Yeah, we also don't find an amulet until like the guaranteed amulet. Funny thing, in the race, actually my area was bugged and didn't spawn the amulet, like the guaranteed amulet in Act 2 actually didn't spawn for me, so that was funny. You actually ended up without an amulet for a very long time. So yeah, in this area, I clear exactly the same way. I go on top of the packs and then cast the Frozen Locus and then I just shoot the Glacial Cascade backwards. And as I'm going forward, I'm also putting the Frost Bomb on top of the monsters. So you see how safe this is, how easy this is, and I'm just basically ending up like rolling forward while doing damage, right? So this area, there is also, if you are playing a build that really needs a lot of support gems, you can find a support gem encounter here, but if I don't find it on the way, I don't go out of my way to search for it because I have enough support gems from guaranteed other sources that I'm gonna see on the way. Also, if you see these coffins, you know that's not the right way to go, right? The coffins are usually in dead ends, like the coffins on the sides. So I already know I don't have to go all the way down there to check. You can also see my loot filter in action. So every speedrunner basically is making their own loot filters. I have been making loot filters for a very long time. I have like a whole community on Patreon. If you want my loot filters specifically, you can check out my Patreon, which is going to be linked in the description, and you can get all my loot filters with the custom sounds and stuff like that. And I'm making filters for PoE 1 and PoE 2 and for any like specific things that I'm doing. So like my racing loot filter is going to be there on Patreon as well for the monk, and you can basically just take that and copy it and use it yourself. So here I know basically more or less how to go here. We go to the boss. This is sub 20 minutes, so we're okay. Ideally, I would like to kill Lachlan sub 25. That would be like an okay time for me. This is like slightly slower, but it's not bad. So we have martial tempo, rage. So since I have a bell, I'm gonna put the bell on top. So frost bomb ahead of time, put the bell, and then go backwards and then shoot with Glacial Cascade. So ideally, you would like to hit the bell and the boss with the tip of the Glacial Cascade. Of course, that requires the boss to not be moving, but yeah, you can see like I'm hitting here. That does a lot of damage, and it's very, very easy. These bosses are so easy if you're using this combo early on. For the first level 3 gem that you're getting from Red Veil, you can either craft the bell, or you can engrave shield charge if you already found strength on shield and on a one-handed weapon, right? Or on some other piece of gear, because you need, I think, 10 strength, so like 2 items with strength rolls in order to use the shield charge before getting any strength on your passives. But later on, we're gonna be getting strength passives, which is gonna basically guarantee being able to use shield charge like whenever we're gonna be like in the hunting grounds. So we're going to the Praetor, and Praetor is the layouts. Actually, I'm starting to get better at the Praetor, whatever crypt this area is called, Mausoleum of the Praetor. I'm starting to get a little bit better at these layouts, so that's really nice. This is definitely something that comes with experience, just running a lot of these zones, and you start noticing patterns, you start noticing like which direction you should be going. So here, I'm seeing this is not it, and I want to check to the left side first because that's where that most often is. But if not, like I know roughly the orientation. Here we have a rare mob which has energy shield, but I still find it like worth killing, especially until I have like really, really good setup, right? But then if you have a really, really good setup, it also takes less time to kill the monsters, right? To kill the rares, which makes it so that you kind of snowball, right? So by getting better gear, and by getting more currency, you are able to be stronger, kill things faster, and get even more gear and even more currency, right? So paying attention to like little things on your gear, little things on your passives, and just getting a little bit better has this snowballing effect where you're just getting faster and faster and your character feels stronger and stronger, right? And that allows you to push faster, right? And be a little bit more under-leveled and so on. So here I know it's not going to be down on the left, so I know it's like roughly above me here, right? So yeah, this is where the entrance is, and very, very easy to find. We're still level 7. Ideally, I would hit level 8, which would allow me to do a little bit more damage. I'm hovering over my gear. This chest piece is extremely good defensively. Unfortunately, it's a pure armor base, so it slows me, but I'm using it here just for safety because I really don't want to die, right? Ideally, I would just like not do these runs deathless, but that's very difficult to do if you're trying to push fast. So unfortunately, he moved away from the bell, so I cannot hit him and the bell at the same time, which would allow me to basically freaking one-shot him. It does so much damage sometimes. You're gonna see like on Lachlan. I move away from this to not take too much damage. Depending on like the sequence, sometimes this boss can do very annoying things where he just basically forces you to dodge over and over. But here we're gonna drop the bell, Frozen Locus away, and then hit with the end both on him and the bell and do a lot of damage. And then that's basically the boss. You can dodge roll through these projectiles, so you take no damage. This fight basically is just like practice. You practice, you learn how to do it, and this setup is really, really good for it. So after this boss, you want to portal, like the moment he dies, the instant he dies, press your portal hotkey so that you can do the portal before it gets interrupted. If you do a little bit late, as you can see, like my portal got interrupted, I had to redo it. So I'm going to ID stuff that I potentially can use that can have like useful things for me. I'm going to sell everything I don't need. And I'm going to keep stuff that might be useful. And I'm also going to put in the inventory anything, in my stash, anything that has sockets or quality. These things are very, very important. Remember what I said about like getting better gear makes you stronger, and then that snowballs into you getting even better gear and becoming even stronger? Well, that's the same thing with the disenchanting gear. So disenchanting weapons gives you blacksmith weapons, like salvaging them gives you blacksmith whetstones for your weapon damage. Very, very important. Disenchanting armor gives you armor scraps. Very, very important. It's like an insane defensive layer that I'm going to talk about later when we get to the point. And then, of course, sockets give you sockets, and you usually find plenty of runes. Like sometimes you have runs where you find almost no runes, but most of the time you're going to have like extra couple runes, which you can also even put in your gear if you have the sockets for that. So we drop the bell. He is debuffed, and we're just trying to hit with the end both the boss and the bell. The bell runs out, we go in, we stack some rage, drop the bell, hit him again. And of course, he's doing some stuff, so we have to respect that. We have to dodge and not get hit by too many things, even though we are getting hit by a bunch of shit. But yeah, we basically hit him with the end. He's now in a position, okay, I need to dodge this slam. This slam doesn't typically one-shot, but you definitely don't want to get hit by it, because if you're missing some HP, then it is going to one-shot you. It's like almost one-shotting you. It does like 150 damage or something. Huge amount of damage overall, so definitely don't want to get hit by it twice, because then you guaranteed die. So 25-30 here. I would ideally like to do it under 25 minutes, but like the most important thing is like look at your times, right? Don't try to not compare yourself to me, or don't compare yourself to like other speedrunners. Measure your own time. Get Live Split, or any other program to have a timer. You can go to speedrunning.com or speedrun.com, whatever the website, and get the link to Live Split there. And just measure your times and try to improve your own times. And it's a very addictive process of like just getting better and like figuring out things first, because it's so easy to improve at first. Like I would highly recommend like anyone tries, because it's so easy to improve at first, and you cut off like massive chunks of time as you learn. But then the better you get, the harder it is and the more work you have to put in. But at the beginning, it's so freaking easy to improve. So this is one of the trickiest parts for Monk. A lot of people like ED Contagion because of exactly this area, right? Like clearing this ritual for the skill gem, if you need the skill gem, and I do, because I want to have a lot of bells. So this gives me like a very early extra bell. So this, and then the Freythorn, these areas are very, very tricky without ED Contagion. But if you have Frozen Locus and you use it properly, this is actually pretty safe and pretty nice to clear. And it clears in a similar time, because ED Contagion doesn't do much damage, because you're not scaling any spell damage or chaos damage on your tree. So that's why I like this setup. It's safe, and it does deal with this, right? There are many ways of dealing with this early setup, with these like early areas of like level 10 to level 14. Like the level 10 to level 14 is the trickiest, right? Because your damage is typically low, and you are also squishy at the same time. So you cannot really go like in melee and put the bell. That is very, very dangerous, especially in this area. If you stand in one place, these poison spitters are going to absolutely murder you in a second. So you really want to just keep moving, right? So two ways of dealing damage while moving are Frozen Locus and ED Contagion. So those are your options. ED Contagion, I think, is definitely viable and good, and a lot of racers are using that. But I personally like the Frozen Locus because of its safety and application for later, and especially like the end of Act 1, beginning of Act 2, your Herald pops combined with it are very, very powerful. So I'm trimming this because I know there's a rare. He has like elemental resistance aura. I'm gonna put the bell, dash away with the frozen locus and just one-shot it. So we have an extra support gem. So this run we're getting a lot of support gems. For support gems, so here's the setup. I have right now Rage in my auto attack. I have Martial Tempo Conk Effect in Glacial Cascade. I have Ice Bite and Cold Infusion in my Frozen Locus, and that allows my Frozen Locus to also buff the Glacial Cascade, right? So because of the Ice Bite, Frozen Locus is freezing very consistently. It has like 50% more freeze buildup. So you are able to get this Ice Bite buff and get the extra damage for the Glacial Cascades that are gonna follow it. Oh, this is like 2 rares. I don't know what the modifiers are. I know one has extra energy shield and the other one has extra physical damage. And they absolutely just murder me and one-shot me. So it's another hilarious death. I was like, oh, I'm going to get so much loot out of these guys. Psych, I just get murdered. So this is a dangerous area. You are at like a trough in power. You are very low in power here, because I am using my level 4 skill gems. Like right before hitting level 10, you're like here level 9, so you cannot use your level 4 skill gems. And even if you want to use them on bells first, so your Glacial Cascade and Frozen Locus and whatever else you're going to be using is going to be a relatively low level compared to the level of the monsters and the level of the content. So here is an area where you're pretty weak. And ED Contagion is pretty decent here. And Frozen Locus is also pretty decent here because you can just kite the monsters, right? This is very dangerous, and I'm gonna have an extremely freaking close, dangerous rippy fight with the skill gem dog that you're gonna see later. But yeah, I'm just trying to trim before I use the bell. These guys are frozen, and now I can use the bell, and now I can one-shot this guy. So you can see Regal Orb, right? Super valuable. Regal Orbs are super valuable for crafting your weapons. That's number 1 priority, that you want to use them. And then once you have your like final weapon that you're going to have for the run, let's say you're doing like an act 3 run, then you can use regals on things like rings for extra damage, right? Because you can roll flat damage. You can use them on gloves as well for extra damage or defense, right? And that's going to be the primary use of regals. So you can see I'm dropping the Frost Bomb and then this, and you can see we're exploding stuff. We're doing decent amount of damage, but this is pretty low damage compared to the content. This is like the lowest power we're gonna have probably for the entire run, like this zone, because we're kind of rushing to this zone. But the zone itself, minus like a few things, is relatively easy. And the most difficult things in this zone are the crossbow guys. Like the crossbow guys do ridiculous damage. So that's number 1 thing. And then number 2 in this zone is going to be like the dog and the, like, you know, rare monsters that can roll some rippy mods. So those are like the most dangerous things in this area. I know the crop circle is going to be above me, so I'm just going to go there because I want the gems. You can see the crossbow guys just absolutely murdered me. They did insane amount of damage, and I probably did some mistakes with like how I used my flasks maybe. Like I'm sure I could have done it better, and I could have moved like not in a straight line away from them and done better. The dangerous thing about the crop circle guy is that if you respawn at checkpoint, it doesn't respawn, right? So you can only fight him once. Like it doesn't, the trigger for this only happens once. And this guy happened to roll with an insane combo. He has elemental res, and then he like an elemental res aura, and then he also has whatever the burning ground around him, and the burning ground has like a big area. So because he's super fast and melee, I cannot hit him with Glacial Cascade, and I cannot hit him with anything other than just melee. But if I'm in melee, I'm dying in 2 seconds, and I have also a bad flask because I didn't swap my my pot, right? So this is like super rippy, super dangerous. Like my life is constantly going up as if he has like RF, right? So I'm trying to figure out like how can I fight this guy, because he's just murdering me. I'm standing next to him for a second and he's murdering. I figured out, okay, I'm gonna have to use a lot of pots. So I'm just gonna, I think, run up to the checkpoint because I know they added a new checkpoint. I'm like, fuck, I'm running out of pots. I cannot really do it without like just spamming pots and like face tanking him. So I'm gonna run to the checkpoint to get my flask charges. He's already pretty low, so I know it's not gonna be that long of a fight. And then I'm just gonna face tank him with the bell and just like kill him in melee. So very dangerous, but also by going to the checkpoint, I'm immediately able to hop from checkpoint to checkpoint and go to the end of the zone. So I'm not even losing time by kiting him in that direction. So here we're going to go back to town. You can go earlier to town. I'm trying to optimize this. This is something that, again, comes with experience. When you should go to town, when should you sell, what things you should bring with you to town, and what things you should drop on the ground, right? Because, of course, you could like go more, you could travel more to town and sell more items, get more gold, get more transmutes and things like that. But you definitely want to minimize it, right? You want to go to town as little as possible, while at the same time selling all of the things and salvaging all of the things that you possibly can that can like increase your character power. This was actually a better flask than the other one, but I decided I don't really care that much. Like these flasks are like whatever, as long as I have the level appropriate life flask, I'm happy. So I have the flask refilled. Okay. So this is something, again, this is a big mistake that I'm doing right now. I should be doing this while walking and not while sitting in town, right? So crafting gems in town is actually pretty good, especially like in Act 2 town, because when you're crafting gems and when you're allocating passives, the game pauses normally. But if you are in town, the game doesn't pause because you cannot pause the entire server for everyone, right? Like you cannot pause other players forcibly. So the towns don't pause. So that means you can wait for something, you can wait for a dialogue or whatever, and you can engrave gems, and you can allocate passives without pausing the game, which means without slowing yourself down, right? And you just keep progressing. And you want to find like these dead times, like boss intermissions, dialogues, things that you're waiting for that you would have to stand in place and do nothing anyway. And that's when you want to do your inventory management, crafting, engraving gems, and so on. So here I get an extra level 4 gem, and I decided to get a frozen locus, which is going to help my progression. It's going to help me do more damage, be safer. I'm going to be able to clear Freythorn very easily. In general, like this is really, really good amount of damage. And you see like we're just blowing stuff up. So I really like the frozen locus, and I find it a little bit better than ED Contagion because, again, you're going to see in Freythorn, the zone is very smooth. If I'm playing with ED Contagion, I always feel in danger because it's not like in PoE 1. In PoE 1, Essence Drain actually gives you like a large amount of regeneration. Maybe not that early in the game, but it does give you regen and it makes you a little bit safer while you're waiting for the damage to tick down. But in PoE 2, it doesn't do that. So you are very unsafe while using ED Contagion, and you need to make sure that you're dodging, that you're like, skirting around the monsters. But Frozen Locus freezes things immediately, and you are so safe with it. I definitely really like it, and it combos with stuff. Like if you didn't know, by the way, Glacial Cascade's final spike automatically explodes the Frozen Locus little icicle, right? So no matter how much damage you do, you will automatically explode it, right? That's basically the interaction between the two skills. So that is something that you want to be mindful of, and you want to try to aim your Glacial Cascade as you're walking away from it with at the icicle. But for this guy, I have 3 bells already. So you can see like we're doing a good amount of damage here. We got a Glacial Cascade doing good deeps, and I have Rage and Martial Tempo in my auto attack. And then I have, in Frozen Locus, I have Cold Infusion and Ice Bite. And then for the bells, we're going to be putting 4 support gems. One is Ruthless for extra stun buildup. Then we're going to have Glaciation, Conduction, and Ignition, because any amount of extra elemental damage that we have, which we're going to have Cold by default because we're using Cold skills, we're going to have a Lightning from gear. Usually you have it from a rune or from a flat roll somewhere or on a weapon, and then Fire damage. These are going to ignite, shock, and chill the bells, and that's going to make the bells do extra damage. And the bells are going to hit the other bells, they're going to hit the boss, and basically the more ailments you have on the bells, the more damage you're doing. So you really want to make sure that you're applying all the ailments if you're using bells to maximize your single target damage. Here you can respawn a checkpoint actually to get to the checkpoint a little bit faster. And we got passives to allocate. So the first I allocate strength and then dex and then int. That allows me to get all the high level of the skill gems that I need. And here in this zone, I think, okay, so this is one of the rares that I would easily skip, right? So like this has damage immunity periodically, and sometimes it makes the monsters immune, so you basically just cannot do damage to them. Like right now they're immune. So this is a rare that I should have probably skipped. And also another mistake I did in this zone is at the top of the zone there is the entrance to Freythorn, but I missed it, right? So I didn't exactly explore the zone correctly. So I missed the entrance for Freythorn, and I end up wasting like half a minute here walking around and looking for the entrance. Another thing I'm doing for the bells is also setting them on attack without moving, because if you don't do that, you will have issues with them spawning, like, and they still do that, but like less, spawning like in the backwards, right? Like, or spawning them in the wrong area. Your character has to walk a little bit instead of just like spawning it in front of itself. So this is something that you have to learn a little bit. I'm respawning at checkpoint because I now realized, okay, it's going to be quicker if I go from the checkpoint and just go up. Probably the quicker one would be to go to the checkpoint that was next to the ritual, and then from that go up, but like it's whatever. So now we're gonna go to Freythorn, and we're gonna get Herald of Ice, and then the clear is gonna start looking really good. Yeah, we're hitting level 11 here, so this is very high level. I killed a lot of mobs, and I prioritized killing a lot of mobs because I wanted to be a little bit safe. I died a couple times already. Like this run has a pretty large amount of deaths. I think in total I died like 9 times, which is a lot. Definitely one of the worst runs that I've had in terms of like how many times I died, but it's okay. I'm gonna spawn the bell on this guy. Unfortunately, I cannot spawn more bells because I have to like walk away from him because he's doing a lot of damage with these explosions, but it's okay. We got another skill gem, so that means I can put it on Glacial Cascade. So I have, I think, 3 bells right now. Ideally, you want to have 4 bells probably. You can run with 3 bells as well, depending on like how many gem sockets you still have. In terms of like running 4 bells, if you want to run also Frozen Locus and Leap Slam, you're gonna have to skip the Frost Bomb. So I think I skipped the Frost Bomb in here. But the damage, the single target damage is like good enough anyway, and the Frost Bomb a lot of the time only works like at the beginning of the hit. And the more you have of the more damage you have of other elements, also like added lightning, added cold, the less important Frost Bomb becomes. And the more important it is to have like the 4th bell, right? Because bells, of course, benefit from cold and fire damage as well. So here we're clearing with the bell, we're clearing with Frozen Locus, and we're trying to find all of the stuff. What else can I talk about? What else is important? In Freythorn, in this zone, nobody has really figured out how to look for the rituals, other than if you get to the final ritual, the one that is disabled, there will be like spirits like flying away, and they are flying roughly in the direction of other rituals. But I found it to be sometimes a little bit deceiving. Sometimes actually they're not flying exactly in the directions of the rituals, so I don't know if that's actually 100% correct, but they seem to be flying roughly in the direction of the other rituals. So if you like completely don't know which way to go and you find the final ritual, then look for these little like spirits, like purple, black and white strands of like spirits flying away from it, and that's how you can navigate and look for the direction to go to see the other ones. You can see like how safe this is. I'm just like popping the Frozen Locust over and over, and the guys are just getting frozen over and over, and this is super safe, right? So this zone can be very dangerous because anything that has chaos damage early on is very dangerous. We have like 0 chaos res, and for some reason chaos damage monsters do a lot of damage. I don't know why, but the default like base damage of chaos damage monsters seems to be higher than pretty much any other type of damage. Like any chaos spitters will just basically murder you. Like any chaos like ranged monsters will murder you in this game for some reason. So this boss is very, very annoying in terms of his movement. You want to get him against the wall, because then he cannot teleport backwards. He has this tendency of like just teleporting backwards. So if you just like get to him, attack him 4 times and start dropping the bells, he's just gonna teleport away from the bells, right? So you're gonna basically have to start over again, wait for your bells to dissipate so you can start stacking them. So yeah, you wanna make sure that you're not like going all in and dropping all the bells on him if he's not against the wall, right? So if he's not teleporting for a long time, Here I think I try to drop the bell because I think maybe he cannot teleport because he has the ritual blocking him as well. Oh yeah, here. But there we go. Now he's against the wall. Now he cannot teleport. So we just drop the bells, start attacking him. He has the keep running thing. If you don't know, like the green debuff means you have to keep running. The red debuff means you have to stand still. Otherwise you're going to be affected by the thing that's going to like stun you, right? And then he can just do a huge amount of damage to you. I'm checking my sockets, I'm checking my inventory, right? Whenever you're waiting on like a boss intermission like that, it's very important to take a look at your inventory and see like, okay, what's my weakest piece? What do I need to upgrade, right? Do I need a new helmet? Do I need new gloves? Do I have movement speed? Like, what should I spend my currency on, right? This is something very, very important to pay attention to. So as you're running, if you have like nothing important to do, you definitely want to pay attention to your gear and like take stock of it and see what you need, right? Okay, we're picking up a ruby charm. So since I have a ruby charm, which is something that you definitely want for like Act 2, even Act 3, you want a ruby charm, is a very, very useful one. But because I already have one, because it dropped, then I can, from Finn, I can get the glacial one for the count fight, right? So that's something also useful that you can pay attention to. For charms, for Act 1, cold one is great. For Act 2 and 3, the fire one is great. For some bosses, lightning one is great, like the big, large corrupted core boss. There's a lot of lightning damage, so you want to get the lightning one. And then also for Viper Napuatsi, you want to get the poison one, right? If you have the poison one, very, very useful for that. So we got a decent Gothic staff with +2 and cold, and I regaled it so I can get something else on it, investing a little bit of currency into it so I can have a really easy, nice count fight. If you're gonna invest currency into your weapons, do not do it right before you upgrade a weapon, right? Like, it's important to learn the breakpoints and which levels you get the weapons. So Gothic staff, for example, is level 11, right? The next staff that we're gonna get is level 20, because there is also the crackling staff below the level 20, but the crackling staff is terrible. The crackling staff doesn't give you what you need because you cannot freeze with it because you're doing lightning damage. So excuse me, unless you have like a huge amount of added cold and +2 levels and attack speed and flat lightning on it, then I would use it, I guess, and sockets maybe, right? And I can use the crackling staff because that would be insane. But if it doesn't have that, I'm not going to use the crackling staff because losing Herald of Ice explosions on your Ice Strike is just not good enough. Like, that doesn't work for me. That just ends up still making you slower, and it's more dangerous, right? Because you're not chilling and freezing monsters by default. So you definitely want to make sure that you invest a little bit into your Gothic stuff and get it decent so that it can carry you to level 20. And then at level 20, you have, I think, the Crescent stuff, which is a physical base again. So that's what we want. Now I got the support gem. I would get one from the Executioner as well, but we're putting it in, we're getting magnified effect into Herald of Ice. So for Herald of Ice, there are 2 support gems that I'm using that are actually not increasing the spirit cost, right? So you can use them basically for free as long as you have the supports. And this build in this run, you end up having enough supports for everything you want, so you can totally afford to do that. So one is magnified effect, and the other one is what's it called? The one whenever you kill a shocked enemy, you get extra lightning damage to your attacks. So that is something that also you can put in your Herald of Ice if you have added lightning damage, right? If you have added lightning damage anywhere, and you should, right? Because that's like a lot of your damage depends on that. Then yeah. Oh, this is really, really good tip I can give you for the count. If you can drag some monsters with you, you can stack the bells. As you can see, I stacked the bells before he appeared, and then I just basically, I'm gonna melt him before he can do anything, because I stacked the bells on the mobs while he was saying his dialogue. So he ends up just doing absolutely nothing. I also freeze him now. He's dead. Like, that was not even a fight. But I was able to do that because I kept the monsters alive and dragged them with me to the boss, and then waited a little bit so that I can kill them and still have enough time for my bells to spawn before, right as he becomes targetable, right? So that is another trick you can use on a bunch of different bosses if you have the bell and if you can drag monsters with you. If you can keep them alive a little bit, you can do this on like the Act 2 end boss and stuff like that. Lots of bosses you can do that on. Here I'm picking up from my stash things for the salvage bench, and we're gonna just do them all in bulk. And then we're gonna be basically doing it as we are coming across different items and going next to the salvage bench. Looking at the belts, belts are pretty important. It's very hard to find a good belt. The ideal thing for me is strength, actually, because for this run, for a monk, you need, if you have, let's say, strength on a weapon or on a shield, then typically you would need about 10 strength on the rest of your gear to be able to be a little bit greedy with your passives and not have to spend extra passives on the strength and be able to use the shield charge as well as the leap slam, which we're going to be using later. So that's what we need the strength for. We're also using like weapon sets. So we have weapon set 1 where we're picking a lot of our damage passives, and then we have weapon set 2 where we're picking strength, some extra evasion and energy shield, and some life recoup as well that allows us to survive a little bit better through the Act 3 rush. So here you can see we're going to be doing some crazy pops with the Herald of Ice. Like we just cast the frozen locus, moving away from the monsters. They all get frozen, exploded, and it kind of like chains. It doesn't chain, but it has like a chain reaction in terms of like, you know, just like a regular explosion, right? You kill a monster, it explodes, and then the Herald explosion kills another monster, and so on. So it's very satisfying. We can just kill a lot of mobs that way. And go really quickly while moving, just shoot backwards. We got an iron ring, that's really nice. Iron rings early on are very, very good. Any added damage that you have that is not on the weapon will also affect the frozen locus, because frozen locus does not do weapon damage. This is very important to know. Frozen locus scales with levels and with flat damage added to attacks that is on the rest of your gear. You can see I'm still holding. Have you seen how long I was holding the ring here? I was just like holding the ring while fighting the monsters, and you can only do that with the right hotkey setup, right? So if you cannot do something like that, fix your hotkey setup, right? Even on mouse and keyboard, you should be able to do that. You should be able to like use your skills while moving, while holding an item. You can totally do that with mouse and keyboard. Just have a movement hotkey on anything other than left click, and then you can basically just do that for free, right? This is very, very important if you're going to be speedrunning, leveling fast, or just trying to get better at the game, because it can save you so much time, it can save you so much hassle. We got another support gem, level 4, so we can upgrade our Glacial Cascade as well. And here we're going to go for Ruthless, because we have enough strength to do it. Whenever I'm crafting supports, and if I'm not sure if I have the attributes, I briefly take a look at my skill gems page, and you can see on top side of it there are the support gems and how many out of how many you have, right? So I have like 3 out of 3 strength, like 4 out of 4 intelligence or whatever. So I know, okay, if I have these 2 filled, then I can only make a dex one. So I'll make like conduction for one of the bells, for example. So we crafted the 4th bell now. We're gonna have the bell for our final fight. And we have everything filled in. So this is the limit basically of how many skill gems I can have. And then if we want to add Leap Slam as well, or if I want to add Ice Strike and not remove any of the skills, because I'm actually experimenting with using Glacial Cascade for a little bit longer, I think there is definitely a space for it, but you need to be very economical with your upgrades for your skill gems. So for example, you can skip the early upgrades to bells because you're gonna have enough single target damage most of the time, but then you upgrade the bells later on as you get like level 8 skill gems. But you can also use Glacial Cascade to be safer, right? So this area, the Ogam Manor, is so rippy and so dangerous. This is the most dangerous area in Act 1, I think by far. This is more dangerous than Freythorn, than Farmlands. This is very, very dangerous. These monsters explode. They have like there's like a physical debuff. These guys can pin you. There's other mobs that have like barrage things. It's in tight corridors, so they always aim at you. It's very hard to dodge anything. So using this Frozen Locus Glacial Cascade combo is very, very safe. By far the safest way. If you cannot enter a corridor, you can like shoot from a distance with Glacial Cascade, and you're actually chilling the monsters and freezing them, unlike ED Contagion, which spreads through the monsters, but it's hard to combo a little bit when they are, you know, around the corner or at a distance, and you have to wait a long time, and they can just do whatever they want during that time, right? So I find this a little bit safer. This is another one of the rares that I could have skipped, because it's very, very tanky, but I do want to get as much gear as I can early on. Again, I have no movement speed boots, pretty low on currency, so I'm just deciding to kill this guy. It's not that long, and we're getting a bunch of stuff. We get augmentation, can potentially get some good stuff from this. So ideally, in Act 1, you want to hit level 14. The reason why you want to hit level 14 on most classes before the count fight is that it allows you to use level 5 skill gem, which unlocks a new tier of skills. So for a monk, this is going to be Ice Strike. For example, warrior, this is going to be the perfect strike. So you definitely want to make sure that you manage your XP so that you hit level 14 like right before the count, ideally, right? That's how you want to do this. So we hit level 14 and we're going to be able to get our Ice Strike, and I'm going to now use weapon set passives. So you can see I'm using weapon set passive 1, which is where my staff is, for extra damage, and weapon set 2 for strength, and then some other defensive things for just like shield charging and running around. I don't need damage when I have my shield up. I just need defense. So we're going to set up our skill gems on the elevator. That's a really good time to set up your skill gems here, because you have to wait. You're forced to sit through the elevator animation, and that's a great time to do that. So I'm still working on these things. This is something that again comes with experience and practice, and every run that you do, you want to look for like at least 1 or 2 things that you can improve. So right now I'm probably going to be looking next for different places, like specific spots, like, okay, in this exact spot, like for example, this is something I learned like recently, right? As I'm going into the elevator, this is where I put my Ice Strike and swap my gems, right? Put Rage and Martial Tempo into it and set the hotkeys, and that way I have almost no downtime. I have like a couple seconds of downtime here, but other than that, I did it very efficiently. And so I want to find more spots like that where I can safely and efficiently manage my gear, craft, and do things like that. Like the next thing I need to learn is, for example, crafting for Act 3, I think during the boss fight at the end of Act 2, right? That's another thing I want to learn, I think, to do a little bit better. So we have, 4 bells, monk, decent weapons. So we're of course going to one cycle this phase. And then the other phase, you need to be a little bit lucky. It depends on luck. You can one cycle the boss, but if he decides to early on do the fog phase, then you cannot skip it. You basically have to wait through that, dodge roll around, and yeah. But here this guy is phased when he gets to like half HP. I wish he could like somehow skip it, or if the second boss would spawn with less HP if you do more damage to the first boss, but it is what it is. So you gotta be a little bit careful here, don't be greedy. Very easy to die in this fight. This guy does a lot of damage and freezes you. So yeah, we can do a lot of damage to him here, but it's not gonna be enough to one-tap him. We would need a second cycle, but he's disappearing into the fog, so we're just gonna wait and we're just gonna chill with these wolves and kill him that way. Yeah, and that's basically Act 1. And you'll notice that I didn't kill the Candlemas yet, because we can actually save time and still get the loot from this guy. Because if you go to town, then this animation of like the hooded guy talking to the count does not progress. You still have to be in this zone for it to progress. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kill this guy, and we're gonna go back up the elevator, and we have to walk there. We cannot you cannot respawn back at checkpoint, because then you lose the loot. So you have to actually use the elevator to go up and then traverse the area from checkpoint to checkpoint, which we can do if we basically go and scroll up, go to the other checkpoint for the Candlemas, and the dialogue and stuff is progressing, right? So we're gonna be able to get the loot from the Candlemas, the HP from the Candlemas, and then go back to the Count Geonor, pick up the loot, and then go to town. And everything plus shopping in town and checking for more gear can be done under 1 hour. I think this is like, if you want to speedrun, if you want to race, this is like a benchmark that you want to hit, right? Like if you can do Act 1, everything be done out of Act 1 under 1 hour, I think this is a really good time to shoot for, right? Of course, first you want to get to gauge on like how quick you are your first try, right? Let's say you do it in 3 hours, right? Your first try. Okay, then you want to do like 2:30. Then you want to do under 2 hours, and then under 1.5, and then under an hour is going to be the last break point. And then of course you can still improve from there, right? Like under 50 minutes is possible on Monk, and people do it while speedrunning. But it is definitely not easy if you're trying to also progress to the next act and set yourself up for it, right? That's gonna be something that also you're gonna spend more time doing, like preparing for, efficiently using your currency and disenchanting, salvaging things, right? So like this is again the crackling staff. If it was a physical base, we would be using it, but unfortunately it's a lightning base, so we really don't like that. I'm still gonna check the gear. No movement speed boots. One thing that I did, I think, poorly this run is I didn't take care of my shield. So I had a shitty shield for the whole. This shield that I have is going to last me the entire run. That's not typically the case. That's very, very rare that that's the case. But I was struggling on strength, and I already put some passives into not strength. I didn't want to spend time, respecing, because it costs a few seconds to respec. So I just stuck with this shield. But normally, for your shield, what you want is evasion, like a hybrid evasion base. Maybe soon they're going to be like pure evasion bases introduced, but right now we have like evasion energy shield or evasion armor. So like evasion armor base or evasion energy shield base. And then you want to have increased chance to block, right? Increased block chance on it is going to give you like up to like 37%, I think, block compared to like 25, which we have by default or something. So like 35 plus chance to block is very, very nice and very safe. And combined with the evasion that you're going to have on your gear is going to make you very secure. So in this zone, again, you want to try to not overkill. This is another thing that you want to focus on while you're learning to speedrun and level faster, is not overkilling. What does that mean? This is something that I think can be like nearly endlessly optimized. This is a very difficult, very like high skill cap thing that is very rarely talked about. How you kill monsters makes a huge difference in your time. Maybe not that huge, but it makes a significant difference in your time. So you don't want to kill a single monster. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to look for packs of monsters that are either big or next to each other or fast so that they can follow you. And then you want to kill them at once, right? So here, this is, essences are dangerous. So I do want to clear before killing the essence. So it's less efficient, but it's safer here in this case, because like that way I can drop the bells, click the essence, and then just freeze it immediately so I don't take damage from it. So in this case, I was trying to be as safe as possible. But normally you want to just like wait for the monsters to accumulate, and then you kill a bunch of them at the same time. So this is something that I am learning to optimize. I'm trying to get better at this. This is something like you endlessly can get better and better at. Here you can see I'm trying to craft on an armor piece because my armor is like pure armor base, so it slows me. I want to swap to evasion base as soon as I can. So I'm fishing for that. I have a few, currency things that I can use. Look at this, so satisfying. So here on this boss, you want to kind of go skirt around the edge, ideally on the left side, and then shield charge down, and that way he's not gonna charge up, so you can just do more damage to him. But he does have a bug, if you notice. I'm gonna drop the bells now, and look at this. He's taking no damage, right? He's taking 0 damage. I don't know if this is a bug, or if he actually has like a hidden block ability. He doesn't have a shield, so I don't know what the hell is up with that. But I think it probably is a bug because he doesn't have a shield, right? So why would he have block? But he has this thing where he can like block. And also if you stand on the very bottom of this area, you can see they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. So you can stand at the very bottom corner, and that way the hyenas are not going to go toward you, and you can portal to town safely without them approaching you. And that's another thing you can do to be a little bit faster there. But yeah, killing monsters efficiently, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more when we see some good examples of that. Shopping efficiently, we already talked about that. Going through dialogues and remembering like how many dialogues you have to skip at certain NPCs, having rejects and knowing what items to look for. And now Act 2 is a good example of knowing what items to look for and knowing what you need and what to craft on. So I went to PoE DB, and looked at best evasion bases that I can have at the level that I'm going to be finishing the run, which is going to be around 31. So at level 31, there are certain bases, and they have certain level requirements and attribute requirements. And so I put the best names of the best bases into my regex, and I copy it at the beginning of Act 2, and I have a second regex for specifically that. And that allows me to find the best evasion bases, and you're gonna see that I have like a chest, I have armor piece, and I'm crafting them, and I'm able to do that because I know exactly which ones they are. I have my filter highlight them, I have my regex highlight them in the shops, so I will always find them, it's guaranteed. And that's the difference between having like 45% evasion and having like 60 up to 70% evasion. You can like almost double your survivability by having better bases, even if they roll shit on them. Even if you have like poop on the prefix and piss on the suffix, it's still gonna be better than like something you found in Act 1 that is rare but has like very low armor, very low evasion, and like 15 life and 7 lightning res. It's not gonna be as good as like a 300 evasion chest, right? It's a massive difference. So make sure that you, whatever class you're playing, try to pay attention to the specific names of the items that you find that are good. Put it on your filter or put it in your regex so that you can really, know where to pick it up, and make sure that you're crafting on that and not on anything like random thing that you pick up, right? This can make a huge difference in survivability. So for me, I am committing to evasion and also energy shield. If there's a good base that has evasion and energy shield, that's cool because I have passives that increase both at the same time, but primarily evasion. So I am prioritizing evasion gear. I know that I need 55 dexterity to wear the, most expensive one of them, like most one that has the highest requirements. So I know how much attributes to shoot for. I know which ones to craft on. I know to save currency and not to craft on the shitty ones before that. And I know when I'm gonna be getting them, and I know roughly how good they're gonna be and how survivable they're gonna make me. So I know like what to expect. This is very useful and very important. So here we're putting the another point into strength on the weapon set for the chest, and then point in some damage for the weapon chest for the staff. And I think I did a mistake this run, where I actually, because I had no fire damage at this point, I skipped the increased elemental damage if you ignited enemy recently, but this is something that I should pick up at some point, and I completely forgot. So I was like missing 30% increased damage in this run, and instead I picked up like a shitty 10% increased damage node, so I was missing 20% increased damage. It's not that big of a deal, but it is a mistake again, right? So like this run has plenty of mistakes, and if you see something that I could be doing more efficiently, something that I could improve upon, I would really love to see that in the comments. So make sure to put that in the comments if you see some optimizations that I can do. I'm definitely trying to learn and get better, and I'm very open to any feedback that anyone might have. Like if you're a speedrunner or just like someone who notices something, that would be really cool. But yeah, Maudun Quarry has a layout that you basically just kind of follow. It's like an S shape kind of, and you basically follow the wall, and you can never get lost in here. And it's a pretty good zone for XPing. You can see I'm just like dashing away and killing stuff very easily here. You can gather big packs and use your frozen locus to just explode the whole thing. Very satisfying zone. I like this zone in terms of like clearing. It's so fun. ED Contagion, I don't know if on Monk it's still usable here, probably not, but on a Sorceress, for example, ED Contagion in this zone feels amazing. I tried some speedrunning with Sorceress, and ED Contagion in this zone was like clearing the whole zone. I was just walking through it. So that was very fun. So yeah, this zone, okay, anytime you see this aura on the monster, this is extra physical damage. That is very dangerous. You need to be very careful with that. So approach these guys with caution. But yeah, of course, you want to kill them. You don't want to be a pussy, right? Because they drop a lot of loot. So kill rare monsters whenever you can. But if it was like a crazy zone, like waterways, right? And I was like under leveled, I would probably like skip or reset that or whatever. So yeah, try to learn these as well. Try to learn how does it look like when a rare monster has a certain aura. It's pretty easy to recognize a lot of them. So yeah, you see, I didn't kill that pack. I'm just like gathering them and trying to make sure to kill a lot of monsters at the same time to be a little bit more efficient. Of course, you cannot always do that, but yeah. That is something pretty important. The next boss we're fighting does fire damage. So you can see I swapped my charm to fire, and she has a phase that you need to look out for, where the Faridun lady that you save from there, she says like, watch out, run, whatever, and then you need to actually pay attention. The boss is gonna jump to the middle and she's gonna chase you and swing her weapon. If she hits you, for most characters, that's instant death. So you need to either kill her before she does that, which I'm gonna do, so you're not gonna even see that, or you can just dodge that, right? You need to time her swings to your dodges. This requires seeing it, how this looks like, and a little bit of practice, and it's not that difficult to do. Here I'm going into dead ends, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I'm going completely the wrong way. I should have turned left earlier. So I'm wasting some time here, explored every single nook and cranny of this zone for no reason. Felt cap, that's a good base. You can see my loot filter has highlights has like different border colors, and the border colors indicate what type of a base this is. So this had a green border color, which is associated with evasion, right? So you get a bunch of evasion. You want to get as much evasion and as much life on your gear as you can, and then resistances are also optional, and a life regen is also optional. Those are resistances and life regen are both really good. Life regen I think is pretty underrated. In PoE 2, life recoup and life regen are pretty strong. While leveling, if you get like even like 10 life regen per second, that's really, really nice. So here we have more passes. I'm starting to allocate dexterity because I know that I am going to need more dex to equip the level 20 weapon base. That's going to be one of the main big requirements that I have soon. And now we are approaching the boss that I talked about. Very simple fight if you have enough damage. So just make sure to dodge out of the fire, don't stand in it, and that's it. This setup that we have, the Ice Strike, is really good single target damage because of the bells, right? They will natively provide the cold damage. You got added the flat lightning, added flat fire, and we want to shoot her. As she dies, you immediately want to talk to Risu and then spawn a portal. You have a little bit of time to manage your inventory, and then you pick up the loot and immediately go into the portal without wasting any time. So there is some min-maxing that you can do. I'm still not perfect at it. There's still a lot I need to learn about Act 2, but the town is amazing. You first talk to the hooded one to ID your shit, then you salvage, then you sell and buy. You can also check Zarka for amulets or rings, which are very important. It's very hard to find a good amulet and ring super quickly if you're not killing that many monsters, right? Like in Act 3, you can pretty much guaranteed have like, you know, a good ring, good amulet and stuff like that. And there are different places that are guaranteed that I can show you. Here, you actually don't have to talk to her. You just have to go to roughly that spot. Trigger happens, you can go back. And then I think you can take off chest here, right, to go a little bit faster, which I do. And then I think you need to talk to them so that the place at the map will actually, you know, go to the correct place, to the gates, instead of, you know, same area again. And for each league, each class has different locations at the map. So in Act 2, it's a little bit confusing and hard to see, like where on the map you have to click to go to a specific place without hovering. But you can memorize them, right? So if you're doing the same thing, like you're doing SSF on one class, they're gonna be always the same. So you can just memorize that. In Traitor's Passage, here, I'm killing quite a lot, but mostly what I'm doing is I'm skipping the big spiders. The big spiders have a web that slows you, and they're far away from each other because their hitboxes are big, so it's actually hard to hit a lot of them at the same time. What I'm prioritizing is groups of like skeletons like this, because I just have to hit them like once or twice and they explode. And then I'm prioritizing also the stone golems, these guys that get up, right? And I basically just have to cast a single frozen locus and maybe hit them once or twice, and the whole thing explodes. And that is very convenient because I'm spending like basically no time, right? If I'm moving with frozen locus, then that doesn't even cost me any time. I'm going here for the loot. And yeah, trying to be as efficient as I can while clearing this. This is a better chest because it has high amount of evasion and some energy shield and a little bit of life and res, which is already better than the chest that I was wearing. So I would rather wear that because it's gonna slow me less, right? So instead of having like 5% slow, it's like 3% slow or something like that. So in the Traitor's Passage, since we are rushing to Doryani, on a monk, you actually do not ascend because the ascending will not speed you up as much. At most, you're getting 10% more damage or something like that, like 10% damage as extra cold or lightning, and it is not worth doing. You are faster if you're not ascending. But in a regular run, of course, if you're leveling, you're going to be ascending. But you still can skip Balbala for later until you're a little bit stronger and the fight is easier, right? That's something you can do as well. And I'm going to show you the tell, at least on this class. I don't know if it's the same on every class. I would guess it is. But it's very easy to tell which way to go in certain layouts on the Traitor's Passage because of paper posters on the like cards of text on the walls that you're gonna see. So whenever you get to a checkpoint and then you cross these stairs, like right now we're going up the stairs, after that it's gonna be like a pillar and it's gonna go two ways, right? So you're gonna see on one side there's gonna be like the paper stuff on the wall, and on one side not. Where it's the paper stuff, like on the right side, you see like the little paper things on the wall, that's where Balbala is going to be. So we know the Halani gates are going to be the opposite direction, and I can, go there immediately without having to check, right? So that saves you a bunch of time as well. Look at these satisfying pops. It is so nice to clear. So immediately we know where the Halani gates were, so we didn't have to check the other side, and we save a lot of time. In Halani Gates, this is another zone where I think you can optimize a lot your clear. So again, not killing a single pack, not immediately attacking, but making sure to clear efficiently and gather the packs, and then maybe dropping the bell and clearing it, or just doing the locus. I find that the locus and a couple hits a lot of the time explode the whole thing, so I don't even need to do the bell, so it's a little bit faster. Another optimization with Monk specifically that I want to get a little bit better at doing is using your skills for mobility better. So if I am approaching a pack of monsters within a certain small range, you can actually jump to them with your ice strike. So that would move me forward, right? So here, as I'm shield charging, I could, I'm moving backwards with frozen locus, but then you see if I press my ice strike, I'm jumping forward to them, right? So what I would ideally want to do is use ice strike to jump to the pack, then use frozen locus to jump away from the pack, and then hit it with Glacial Cascade while moving away to explode it. That would be the optimal way of clearing, and with enough damage you can definitely do that. And I want to make sure to get better at it, because that would basically move me through the zone faster while clearing the same amount of monsters, and that's what you always want to do. Here we have a lot of mobs, good amount of damage here. There's a rare mob, so we're gonna drop some bells maybe. Yep, dropping the bells. And there is a side boss here that you don't have to clear, but she drops, I think, a guaranteed rare weapon. And a lot of the time that can be a staff, right? Right now, because there are not that many weapons, it's actually better than it's gonna be in the future. In the future, there's gonna be spears, swords, and all kinds of stuff, which is gonna be worse, right? But yeah, we're dropping a Crescent Quarterstaff, and we're dropping a rare Gothic Quarterstaff. This rare Gothic Quarterstaff is, I think, one that makes you do only fire damage, which is terrible for me, right? So we're definitely not gonna be using that. So I'm gonna go to town right now, because we have so much stuff in the inventory, and I definitely don't want to lose on any sockets. So yeah, this is no physical damage, only fire damage, ignite stuff. So definitely not useful for us. So just 1,000 gold, but it's a great Crescent stuff. So that's my weapon for Act 2, the second half of it. Very, very good weapon. It has a couple of flat rolls and attack speed, which is amazing. And that means I also don't need to put any runes in it, because it already comes with enough damage for the rest of Act 2. So that's why we're killing this guy, right? very often you're gonna find the right weapon because there's simply not that many weapons in the game right now. There's gonna be more, so later she's not gonna be as good, but it would be nice if it dropped like the weapon associated with your class. That'd be cool. But yeah, so we're clearing the Halani gates. Sometimes, what's her name? Asala does not follow you. Like if you move on from the bridge too quickly, she will not follow you. And you can respawn at checkpoint. Like for example, here, you respawn at checkpoint and then she's gonna spawn right next to you and then you can progress, right? If she doesn't follow you, remember that you can either go back to her and like clear the monsters that she's fighting or whatever she's doing when she's stuck, or you can respawn at checkpoint and then she's gonna jump to you. So that's one way you can get yourself unstuck in this zone. But yeah, trying to clear as efficiently as I can. You see these massive explosions. And now we're gonna pick some freeze buildup and then some movement speed. With Dex and Intelligence, we're prioritizing that because of course we want the movement speed as early as possible. And we also want the Dex and Int for the requirements of all the gems, because we're gonna be pushing the levels of the gems very hard, right? Because we are under leveled, and as soon as we become the level where we can use something, we're using it, right? Because we're probably getting it before the time that we are actually able to wear it, since we always are under leveled in the zones. Here, this is another boss where you can pre-stack charges for your bells, but he has a tendency, like first attack he does always the same, but the second attack he has a tendency of doing this attack where he moves around. Yeah, this attack he does like 3 times this move. After the 3rd time, then you drop the bells, right? So you don't waste any bells by letting him just like jump away from your bells, right? That's something important to learn, especially while playing with classes that function better if the enemy is stationary. Like on a warrior, you want to do perfect strike. So of course you don't want to, start charging it, then the boss jumps away from you, right? So you want to make sure that you try to learn these patterns of the bosses. Like this boss does this attack, moves 3 times, and after the 3rd time he's gonna be stationary and you can hit him. Yeah, this is another good place to manage your inventory here, because you have to wait a little bit, right? So you can check your inventory, see what you need, and then spam the stairs. We can take off our chest for a little bit, and then we can do the portal. I could have kept the chest off because I'm gonna be moving through town anyway, but it's okay. So control click the hooded one, and if he has some dialogue, just skip it really quickly. Sell everything we don't need. I'm potentially gonna buy these as well, and the reason why I'm buying these is because I am low on Artificer shards. Like I don't even have a single Artificer orb, and I would like to, so I'm getting that as soon as I can. This is a guaranteed level 7 skill gem, and this always becomes Leap Slam. The reason why is Leap Slam is minimum level 7, and we want to have it as low level as possible, so it has the lowest strength requirement, which is 52 strength. So that's why we're getting, I immediately craft that. But I should have crafted that while I was waiting here, right? So when you select a destination on the caravan, you're gonna have to wait a little bit in front of the door before the door opens and the caravan stops. And that is a perfect time to engrave your skill gems. And you should use that to engrave skill gems and craft gear a little bit at a time. Now, the order of Act 2 is different depending on your goals and class and your strategy. My preferred order is to do the Mastodon Badlands, to do the Titans, and I could maybe do it in the other order, it doesn't really matter that much, and then do Keth as last. The reason why I want Keth as last is because I want to catch up in XP. Keth is the zone that is going to give you the most XP. It's the most densely populated zone. Like that chain of zones is the best for leveling. In Mastodon Badlands, there is a lot of very empty space and mobs that are very far away from each other that you don't really want to spend time clearing. So you skip a lot of them. In the Titan zone, also you skip a lot of the monsters, and they're sometimes very awkward to fight. So you just skip that completely. So you want to do on Monk at least either the Titan or Mastodon first, then do the other one, and then Keth last. You could also go do it like slightly different, mix and match to get the skill points from Keth or whatever, but I find Keth last being the best option. It gives you the highest level amulet, the highest level ring, because the levels of the zones scale as well with the order. So the zone that you're going to go into first is going to have a lower level than the zone you're going to go into like last, right? So you can control which zone is which level. Like for example, if you find a certain boss too hard or whatever, like, and you can wait for your weapon upgrade or whatever, right? You can time that with weapon upgrades and stuff like that. You can time that with power spikes in your character. There's a lot of different things you can time, but my level is really good here. I'm like level 20, right? And I could be, I'm like level 19. So I'm 3 levels below, like 2.5, let's say. Because I'm almost hitting a level. So I could afford to get like 2 levels lower, no problem, right? Or like 1 level lower. So that's why we're doing this zone, to like fall a little bit behind on XP, no problem, we can make it up in Keth. Keth has a lot of good areas to XP, and also Keth has some guaranteed items, such as a guaranteed spirit gem, a guaranteed amulet, a guaranteed ring, that is elemental res ring, which we want to be looking for, right? We want to try to go through the zone and navigate to these things. So we're going to spend a little bit more time there, and on the way to those things we're going to be XPing. So that's the logic behind the order of these zones that I'm doing. In this zone there's also a guaranteed support gem. If you find it, there is, like a checkpoint that has like a little wooden effigy next to it. If you click on it, a support gem drops. So that's a guaranteed support gem here if you are missing support gems. But you get a lot of support gems in this act, because every single time you kill, you get part for the horn of the Vastiri or whatever, you get a support gem as well, right? Unfortunately, they're only tier 1, but that's okay. So we're just basically killing mostly magic packs, rare mobs, and whenever we have like a lot of monsters accumulate together. One like combat pattern that is really nice to do here, especially on Monk. I don't know how on other classes that would work, but on Monk, what you can do is hit a monster, hit a monster with Ice Strike, and then go to another one, hit it again, just keep walking and hitting them a little bit, and that way you're stacking your bell, but you're also waiting for monsters to come to you. But you don't want to just wait, right? You don't want to like stand in place and run around, do nothing, and wait until you have a big pack and then kill them. You want to be doing something. So you're doing like chip damage to them as you're moving, which allows you to, put them a little bit lower. And then what happens is, if you have like a monster that is a little bit low on HP, you drop a bell, and at the moment you drop a bell, the bell deals enough damage to freeze that guy as well, if you have like added cold damage, and it explodes him from the Herald, and then the Herald hits the bell kills another monster, that monster explodes, and that hits the bell, and they just chain reaction kill each other. The other option of doing that, instead of like Heralds, is also Infernal Cry. If you're running with Infernal Cry, I used to play with Infernal Cry on Monk as well, but on Warrior, for example, or if you're doing like any shield charge setups, shield charge for damage with Infernal Cry plus Bell has a really cool interaction where it basically like makes like a crazy chain reaction. I hate this boss with a passion, mainly the Mastodon. The Mastodon has such a shitty, dumb hitbox. Like, it's impossible to hit it properly, and also your character targets like a weird part of its body instead of hitting the bells. So like you drop bells on top of this guy and your character doesn't hit the bells. Your character just like ends up hitting the monster, right? So I die here, unfortunately. I tried to be greedy and I was doing damage on top of the ball, so that is a mistake. But yeah, I was very frustrated with this. I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna be greedy. I'm just gonna like face tank it. But yeah, very, 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 very annoying fight. So ideally, I would like kill them at the same time. So that's why you want to stand on the Death Lord, so that the Mastodon comes to you and you can hit them both at the same time. But it's pretty tricky. So you can see like my character fucking cannot roll through the boss, right? Because the boss is like pushing me and moving me, and it's so freaking annoying. Like I just can't move. I'm chain dying. This is a very sad fight. This is a very sad display of me being frustrated and just like trying to rage. But yeah, I'm equipping this. This gives me a little bit of dex. I can equip a better weapon. I'm just gonna melt them now. That's a mistake that I didn't do that earlier, of course, right? Because I could probably have a much better time freeze them earlier. So I'm just focusing the Mastodon because this guy is freaking pissing me off. I still, you know, still find it very, very annoying. I really don't like these like deceiving hitboxes. Like, I feel like your character should be able to move under their legs or something if the monsters are this big, but it can't, right? There's like invisible hitbox. Another very frustrated thing like that is like monsters that burrow underground that still have a hitbox above the ground somehow. So again, we have movement speed on this. I already think I have movement speed now by this time. But yeah, movement speed, very, very important, of course. So you always want to make sure to ID all the boots. Actually, that was at like 60 life. So I'm actually taking that back. 60 life on this, very, very nice. And then also what you want to do is you want to make sure that you sell everything you don't need. But if you have enough gold, and that of course depends on your build, your needs, like if you want to gamble for certain items or not. Sometimes you can gamble for boots or for weapons and stuff like that. You want to disenchant rare items because the regals are very, very, very useful, right? You can basically never have enough regals. If you tell me like I can get 10 more regals, I have a use for them, right? I can regal jewelry for extra damage. I can regal every single piece of gear for extra resistances and life. I can regal boots that have, you know, some good attributes from the vendor to try to get movement speed on them as well, or boots with movement speed to have some attributes. And of course, we can regal the weapons to just get as good of a weapon as we can. But yeah, right now we're doing the Titan Grotto. The area is level 23. Important thing about clearing this zone is that these liches, oh, this is really nice. Like you go in between of 3 packs and just, I'm trying to get the frozen locust to blow it up, but it wasn't because there was enough space for it, so it wasn't triggering automatically. But yeah, these liches, they resurrect the skeletons. So if you are gonna kill the big skeletons, you wanna make sure to kill the lich first because it's gonna resurrect them and it's gonna be very annoying to fight them. I don't think you get XP for fighting them twice. So I just wanted to go kill that really big juicy pack, and then I want to go kind of follow the wall. I know roughly where the checkpoints might be with the stuff, but of course, you know, the zones are a little bit different. This zone, I find that it has actually a lot of different layouts. There's a lot of different variations of these layouts. Okay, we got a rare guy that breaks armor and takes damage from minions first. And we got some sockets on the items. Very important to have your filter show items with sockets. Very important to have your filter show items with quality. And these guys are dangerous as hell. They also end up pushing you a lot. So I end up like not fighting them that much because you have the tornado, you have them pushing you, and sometimes you get in this like a chain of these guys pushing you over and over and over. So you cannot really move and you get stuck. Stone rune, I need to fix my filter to not show stone rune. Actually, it's completely useless. I mean, you could maybe use it if you had a weapon with 2 sockets at the end and you had absolutely no other rune to put in there. Then of course, you know, you can get some extra stun generation or whatever this gives. But overall, it's like one of the worst runes. There's a guaranteed rune. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that, but in Act 1, while you are picking up Renly's tools, in the burnt Ogam village, you can find a chest that is right next to the tools that have a guaranteed rune drop, and it's gonna be either one of the elemental runes or the iron rune. So that is extremely, extremely useful. If you have an iron rune, I would never use it on a weapon below level 28 because it is much better used on a high level weapon that has higher physical base, or on a piece of gear even, right? So if you put it in a chest piece that has like 300 evasion and you get the extra 20% on that, that is really, really nice. So I would recommend using iron runes for the weapons with physical rolls, or for like chest piece with evasion or something like that. And then also the elemental runes are much better used early on, and they are also great for filling in the gaps in the elemental damage that you need. So if you, for example, don't have a fire roll on any of your jewelry or gloves or the weapon, then you definitely need to get that on the rune, because that way you're going to be able to ignite, which is going to give you like 30% added damage to all of your bells. It's going to give you the ignite, and it's going to also give you 30% increased damage from your passives whenever you ignited an enemy recently. So highly recommend. Oh yeah, Innervate is the support gem that I can actually use here. So you're gonna see sometimes like a little orb hovering my character. That is the Innervate support gem that is giving me extra damage from heralds killing shocked enemies. Yeah, so this zone, I think I found all of them, right? No, there's one maybe I found all of them. Wait, 1, 2, where's the third one? No, 1, 2. Yeah, there's only 2. There's I got so confused here. I think it's up to the right. That's my guess. But it's a very confusing situation. Yeah, this zone has a lot of different possibilities and layouts. And if you don't see every single piece of the edge of the map, right, you can very easily miss. You can very easily miss the checkpoints. So we're gonna go check in the top right now and try to get out of here as soon as possible. The next zone, yeah, it's here, I think. Yep. The next zone has very few monsters to kill, so that's where we're gonna be like falling a little bit behind in XP. There's like big spiders that I skip, again, because they slow you, right? They're pretty slow to fight. It's far away from each other. It's hard to fight them efficiently. It's hard for you to like explode them and kill with Herald. The packs that are the best to kill are definitely packs that have many monsters of varied health pools, because then you end up killing the smaller HP monsters very quickly, and they explode, and that kills the bigger HP monsters. And since you also froze them, they're gonna explode and kill the biggest HP monsters, right? So those are like the most efficient, best packs to kill. This one has these were like rare, and they had a bunch of packs chained together. Yeah, this zone, you kind of want to try to avoid falling into the trap of checking to the side. You kind of actually don't want to check to the side. You kind of want to walk in a straight line as much as you can. So you want to try to figure out the general direction. So let's say the entrance was on the right, and the boss is going to be somewhere on the left, right? So it might be left and a little bit up, left and a little bit down, but it's generally going to be going into the left direction. So I want to avoid, like, I'm not going up here, right? I'm just like checking to the left, right? And going in a straight line as much as possible. And that way, a lot of the time, you're going to find that you can navigate through the zone very quickly, right? So again, I'm just following as much to the left as I can and only killing the bigger packs or like rare monsters, stuff like that. Regal Shard, very nice. And yeah, we found the boss very quickly, right? You see how, like, in this zone, you might find yourself looking at a lot of dead ends. But if you just follow this rule of, like, do not check to the side, just, like, ignore it. Like, pretend you know where you're going and just go in a straight line. And a lot of the time, you're actually going to find the right way to go. It's a very interesting zone in that way. So this guy has sometimes a bugged hitbox. So if it has a bugged hitbox, you can either reset him. If you're doing a lot of damage like me, you can just reset him. If you're not doing that much damage, then you can wait for him to move, and then he's gonna move to a new location, and that you can kill him. But you can see we got a really big amount of damage here, because we got a good weapon, good setup. You know, we got all the bells and everything. We got all the supports that we're gonna need for the entire run, except for like the tier 2 supports, which we're gonna get later in Act 3. And yeah, at level 28 is where you can start seeing, oh, these are really good boots. So these have double big res, some life regen and evasion, and of course movement speed, right? 15% movement speed. So because this is an evasion base, it's a decent base, that's gonna be my end game boots, right? That's the boots for the entire run. So I buy that, and then I don't have to look for the steel toe boots. For a monk specifically, you're looking at steel toe boots, studded vest, sanctioned gloves, and I forget what's the name of the helmet, but we're gonna see the helmet later because I'm gonna craft a really nice one. Those are the best bases that you look for, which are equipable around like level 26 to level 30. Like 26 to 28, I think they're roughly in that range, and they're all evasion bases. They're the highest evasion bases you can get at that level, and that's what you want to, like, you know, try to craft. Drop a couple of transmutes on it, like drop a transmute augment, maybe an essence or whatever. If you have like an essence with attributes or something, like anything like that, to just get some stats on that and put it on, it's gonna help you so much and make you so much more tanky compared to having like shitty bases from Act 1 or like beginning of Act 2. Since we're doing our run for, you know, rushing the boss, we don't pick up these clan relics or whatever, the quest items. So you're gonna see a bunch of them pop up, but we're not picking them up because we don't need that little buff. And also normally while you're leveling through a campaign, that's why we're doing the Titans usually last, because we don't want to have to like go back to that zone to get this permanent buff. Instead we do the other zones and then that zone last, so we don't have to go back there. Book of Specialization here is nice, and then we're able to pick up this movement speed. This is basically 3% movement speed if you have Energy Shield, and most of the time I have Energy Shield. It's useful also because you have Energy Shield while you're in town, while you're like running through the zone, while you're running where there are no monsters, right? While you're fighting, you don't need that much, you know, the movement speed, but if you're not fighting, you do have Energy Shield, so it is always active in those situations. And then another thing I'm looking for in Keth is there is an entrance to an area that has a checkpoint in front of it that you're gonna see that has a guaranteed amulet, and amulets are very important. It's another opportunity for you to have like some attributes. If you have any attributes like 5 int or 5 dex, you're golden. Like that's all I need, and I want some attributes so that I can you know, be a little bit more greedy with my passives. I have a Bloodstone amulet, which is the life one, which is not bad, but we have 7 to all attributes, right? So we roll life and 7 to all attributes. This is great. Very good amulet. Like having this in a race or whatever would be amazing. It gives you a lot of survivability and the attributes that you need. It's basically the perfect amulet here. If I had anything with like dex or int and then rolled some life on it, that would be also great, right? That's definitely what I need. Yeah, this helmet is also decent, but I think it's not the highest base. I think there's a better base that we can still get. Lost City. So in Lost City, there are many different layouts for this that have small variations in terms of like the optional rooms that are here. And what I'm looking for here is the room that has a guaranteed spirit gem. So that is the one that has the golden tomb. It has a guaranteed spirit gem, and you can either get the what's it called? Wind Dancer, I think, which gives you stacking evasion buff, which gives you a lot of evasion, and I am gonna get one, but normally I'm not going for it because I would prioritize getting the Herald of Ice, because one of the most dangerous zones that we're gonna be doing in this run is waterways. And actually you would think that you want the defensive one for waterways because you're like running past super rippy monsters and then you're trying to pull the levers, and you definitely need to clear some of the packs, right? So you definitely don't want to be hit. But the problem is, if you don't have the Herald of Ice, you're not gonna blow up the whole pack instantly. But if you have Herald of Ice, you can blow up the whole pack, which makes it more safer. It's kind of a paradoxical situation, but you do want to basically kill the pack as soon as possible before they do damage to you. It's more important than not getting hit while just running through, because you're still going to have enough evasion, but they're going to murder you if you don't kill them. Like, I would rather kill them 1 second earlier, like all of them, than have a situation where I have like a little bit more evasion for a moment, but then that evasion goes down when you get hit the first time anyway, and you get like a little knockback, but they still have like very long spears and like ranged stuff that will hit you anyway. So I find it not as useful as Herald of Ice. It's still great to have, so I am actually gonna find a second spirit gem, and I am gonna make the Wind Dancer, and I'm just gonna swap between them back and forth depending on the zone I'm doing. So that is also something you can do. And if you have a chest or an amulet with spirit, then you can use both, right? If you have the skill gems. I'm gonna have extra sockets for skill gems because I am gonna drop the Frozen Locus, because we are going to go into a zone that is much higher level than us, and we're not going to be able to use the highest level of skill gems. So the frozen locus, which scales primarily with the skill gem levels, is going to fall behind, and therefore we're not going to be able to use it. It's going to be much less useful than the ice strike in the Act 3 rush. But yeah, we got a studded vest, and it rolled flat evasion on it, giving it like 200 evasion, which is already really good, and that's what I would wear. But I'm going to try to see if I can get a little bit better one as well. But yeah, studded vest is the item you need. It has like level 26 requirement, I think, and 55 dexterity. So that is the highest dexterity requirement that we're going to have. The other dexterity requirement that we're going to need is level 9 gems, which have level, I think, 31 requirement. And they require for a monk 40 dexterity and 40 intelligence. And we're going to have that no problem. This one has a regen and invulnerability aura, but fortunately we melted. So here I have a lot of stuff in the inventory, but I'm refusing to go back to town because I want to be a little bit more efficient, right? So I'm just dropping stuff on the ground that is, not important, and anything that I want to consider to salvage and anything that I want to consider to wear is going to be something that I'm going to keep in my inventory. So we have another studded vest or whatever it's called, right? So we're gonna see what's on it. 20% increased evasion, and then we're gonna roll something on it as well. I think it's gonna be like a little bit of a lightning res, and that's gonna be basically my chest for the run. There's a big difference. Oh yeah, there we got a tomb. That's nice. We got a guaranteed level 7 spirit gem, so you can always get this on any class, whatever spirit gem you need. This is guaranteed, and I think I have a checkpoint. Maybe do I have a checkpoint? No, I don't have a checkpoint to the next area. These little scarabs, the golden scarabs, are actually very dangerous if you are hitting them, and if you're not, like, even if you're freezing them, I think if you don't kill them, they have these explosions. But because there's so many of them, like each individual explosion is not that bad, but because they tend to explode like right after another, like one after another, they can chain you, shock you, like, and they just like keep doing damage. And if they all explode on top of you, you're just instantly dead, right? So definitely be very careful for these little scarabs. They're highly dangerous. We got a rare mob that I want to kill. It's a little bit dangerous because we have like ranged monsters shocking me as well. So I'm shocked right now. But we're gonna kill this guy and progress and try to clear a little bit more efficiently. Like these guys I shouldn't be fighting. I do want to pick up the plate belt because it's a very nice base. Extra armor is very nice because we have no armor at all. A little bit of armor is very useful for like a lot of monsters hitting you at the same time. And these bats are very dangerous. Again, kind of similar idea to the scarabs. These bats do lightning damage, and they do it all at the same time. So they're like doing 0 damage to you, and then suddenly they just explode. We're getting a fire res ring. Fire res is basically probably the most important res that you need for this run. There's a fire boss here, like at the end of the game, like there's lots of fire damage. Lots of mobs do fire damage. Ignite is very nasty. It stops your energy shield from regenerating as well, so you end up having like lower buffer for the next pack that you encounter. So definitely fire res is something I would prioritize. Fire and lightning, right? So like Act 1 cold res, but then Act 2 and 3 fire, and especially Act 3 lightning is something that I would definitely get. I'm gonna pick this up not because I need the support gem, but because I want to fight all of these mobs, because I want to get a little bit of XP, right? So we do like a huge explosion here. We hit the level. So I'm hitting level 24. And I am in a zone level 27, soon to go to 28. So as I'm going to zone 28, which is the Shar, that's the zone where we can start dropping the weapon, and we are not gonna hit any XP penalty. So we're gonna be 4 levels below the level of the zone at all times, 0 XP penalty, which means we are maximizing how much XP we're getting, but we're still as low level as we can. So this guy is a very easy boss, especially if we have a lot of damage. Like if you have, crazy RNG, like I think Sarge had during the race, I saw his weapon was so insane. Like this guy didn't even get to, appear. Like his health bar didn't even appear for a second. We don't have quite as much damage, but it's still very good damage because my weapon is good. Not insane, but it's good. Here you want to click this thing first, then you go back for the loot. We got steel toe boots, so we definitely want to look at that. And then we want to also make sure that we pick up the item with the socket on it, maybe the gloves. I don't have inventory space, so we're just gonna do this. Sometimes, you know, if you don't have that much inventory Tetris to manage, like I'm doing, you wanna go back to where the water is spawning, put a portal up, and then pick out the water, go immediately into the portal. But I had like so much inventory Tetris that, oh yeah, this is the hat. This is the, oh yeah, and I craft life on it. That's amazing, right? So this is my endgame hat. This is my endgame chest, right? We're gonna definitely leave them in the stash for now or in my inventory so I can wear them at level 26. And that is a huge difference. So the Swaft cap, or whatever it's called, that's the highest tier evasion base that we can wear on level 31. And that's going to be what I'm wearing. No shield, unfortunately. I would love to find a shield with like percentage block increase. But alas, it was not given to me to have a good shield, unfortunately. Good thing to do is also to pay attention to your flask. Like whenever you have a flask that is very outdated, you can just buy it for very cheap, like 300 gold or something, and make sure that your flasks are up to date. It really does make a difference. Like, of course, the life flask makes a big difference, but even the mana flask makes a big difference. I got GCP, so I put it on my Ice Strike. That gives me like, I think 2% more attack speed or something. So it's just like a little bit of extra damage. You can also put it on shield charge for the cooldown, although I would do that earlier rather than later, because in Act 3 and this type of a run, we're not going to be really using shield charge on cooldown because there's going to be monsters in the way, right? So we're going to be using leap slam and then occasionally shield charge. So this zone is very rippy. It's a very dangerous zone, and you are at the most under-leveled here compared to the zone typically, because you just came from like clearing 3 zones, 2 of which you don't kill much in. And also it has poison spitters, right? Anytime you have poison spitters, that's really tricky. And you also have vultures that jump at you. And these vultures that jump at you can stun you. They can stun you out of your attacks, and that is very dangerous. So here I might die here. Okay, we managed to not die, but I'm probably gonna die in this zone once or twice because it is very dangerous, and I did misplay definitely in terms of like fighting these packs a little bit. I probably shouldn't have killed this single vulture. Should have just moved on. We definitely want to find the letter in this zone, and the way you find it is on the bottom side of a building. So if you see like a building that looks like, you know, kind of circular building, typically it's on the bottom side of it. And for that reason, you want to walk on the bottom side of the area. So you can see how the area is like a kind of a diamond shape, and we are on the bottom right corner of it. If it was entrance was on the top left side, then we would be going like down to the right. But now we're going down to the left to stick kind of to the bottom of the area so that we can see, oh yeah, all damage shocks, giant guy, and poison spitters. That's a death sentence, right? Shock combined with poison spitters. Probably the most dangerous combo in the entire campaign. This is what killed me in Red Veil as well. I was entering the Red Veil. If you rewind this video and look at the death in Red Veil, I entered Red Veil and immediately there was a pack of like lightning arrow guys. They immediately shocked me, and I immediately got hit by the poison spitters, right? So that's one of the most dangerous combos. You get increased damage on you, and then the highest base damage things hitting you that there are in the game, in at least the early acts. So that's a very rippy combo. If you can get some like chaos res, it's super useful. If you can get lightning res, it's super useful as well. But of course, early on, you don't really have a choice. You wear whatever you can. But yeah, as I said before, we're going on the bottom side of the zone because that way we can see the bottoms of most buildings. I don't know how to explain this better, but like you're gonna see where the letter is located, and it's gonna be at the bottom side of a building, and that way we're gonna be able to see it like most often, most likely, right? So I'm level 25. I cannot wear my good bases, which means I am still in big danger, right? I have not that big amount of life, right? Not too bad actually in terms of my life. It's okay, but we have really bad shield. We have not that much evasion. I didn't pick up certain evasion nodes that sometimes I pick, so we are definitely in big danger here, and I need to be very careful because I can very easily die. Like there's many monster types here that can still kill me. I think I might die even one more time in this zone. Maybe not. So yeah, we're going on the bottom side of this zone. I have another spirit gem, so I am going to craft the evasion one, the wind dancer. And then we're just sticking to the bottom, clearing packs as efficiently as I can. My benchmark for like whenever I'm going decently fast is to enter the dreadnought in less than 2 hours. So I think this thing kills me, right? I have no idea what this had, but it just melted me. Like this essence just like, I don't know if the guy even looked like it was invisible for some reason. But yeah, that essence just absolutely melted me. And since this is a time where my character is weak, perhaps that's a lesson, right? Perhaps I shouldn't try to fight rare mobs or dangerous mobs if I'm at my weakest, right? This is the second area where we're like power trough, we're at our weakest. So definitely very, very, need to be very, very careful. But yeah, I was saying around 2 hours it will be like the benchmark for entering Dreadnought. So on a monk, if you can enter Dreadnought under 2 hours, right, at less than 2 hours, you're doing pretty well, I think. So definitely that's something that you can look for in terms of like a little benchmark, like if you're doing going fast or not, at least for like the times that I've seen other people play and the times that I have on average. It seems to be like if you're entering Dreadnought under 2 hours, you're doing well. So you can see the fallen, the Hara, whatever letter, it's at the bottom side of the building, right? So, and also if you die, if you're in an area and you have to respawn at a checkpoint, if you've explored one side, now you can go the other side, right? Because you're gonna be seeing more of the area, and if there's something you need to find in there, that's a good way to basically not waste any time and explore more of the area, right? Since you died anyway. This is rippy as hell, very, very dangerous. We got poison spirits shooting at me. They're the most dangerous when you're moving toward them, right? Like if I want to move down and they're right below me, I should kind of do the thing that like sailors do, where if they want to go against the wind, they go like first to the side and then back, you know, in the other direction. They kind of go like at an angle instead of going straight, because you cannot go like straight against the wind, right? So you should kind of do that when you're fighting these monsters. Very, very dangerous. If I hit the level, I might go to town and basically fix my inventory, get the extra passives, and be a little bit stronger for the next zone. Path of Mourning is another one of these zones that you don't XP much because it's typically very inefficient. The monsters here are very spread out, and you kind of just want to get through this as quickly as you can. We do find a steel point. That's great. Steel point is it has like flat fire and attack speed and some random bullshit. The flat fire and attack speed, of course, are really good. So I'm gonna keep that. We used our alchemy on this. Basically, you want to use your alchemy first if you have that, and then if you are still not satisfied with your weapon, then you use the other currencies. Of course, transmute, augment, and regal would be the regular way you craft if you don't have an alchemy. Sanctioned bracers, this is definitely something that I want to keep and I want to potentially craft. So we have life and cold res. I would be actually happy with these if I didn't have gloves that are already really good, right? These gloves are extremely good because they have like 56 life, like they have a res. They already, I think, are like a hybrid base. They have something else, and like mana doesn't really matter that much, but what does matter more than actually you would think is dexterity. The reason why dexterity matters so much is because we're fighting so under-leveled. We're gonna be fighting a level 45 boss while we are level 31. So that's gonna be 14 levels difference that we are under-leveled. And the more you're under-leveled, the more accuracy you need, right? You would actually have, I think, 87 or 86%, something around 86% accuracy if you had no extra accuracy rolls on your weapon or gear and no like extra extra additional dexterity. So every point of dexterity dexterity we're getting is actually giving us damage at this point, which normally it doesn't, because normally you are around the levels of the monsters and you don't need much accuracy as long as you have like some dex. But for this setup specifically, you definitely need the dex or accuracy. So if I am rolling accuracy on a weapon or on a helmet or on gloves or on rings or whatever, that is actually a very big damage boost that I would like definitely keep in mind, right? Like if you have two weapons and one has like percentage phase, accuracy, and flat lightning, and then let's say you have like some flat fire on the other side, other gear, versus one that has, you know, bigger flat lightning, right? I would take the one with the accuracy for sure, right? The accuracy is like a big amount of damage. It can give you like, I think you need about 155 accuracy. So let's say you had like 55 dex, you are level 31 and level 45 zone fighting Doryani. You would need about 155 accuracy to cap your hit chance at 100%. You can easily get that from a rune. There is a rune, I think Rune of the Vision, that gives you 100 accuracy. It's a very good rune for this run, so I would definitely keep it and potentially put it in your weapon. It might be better than any other rune that you can put in if you don't have enough accuracy or dex. And then there is also accuracy on helmets, gloves, and rings and the weapon that you can get. And of course, dexterity, right? The more dexterity you have, the less accuracy you need. So that is definitely something to take into account. The problem if you don't have enough accuracy, other than just like, you know, lower damage, is that it also delays stacking bell charges. So if you're doing, let's say, waterways, or let's say you're doing like the Viper fight, and you're hitting her 4 times, and you only actually hit twice because you got unlucky on the accuracy roll with like 85% chance, you cannot put down the bells. And the later you put down the bells, maybe she now does an intermission or jumps away, and then you cannot put down the bells and you're losing the time. You want to put down the bells as soon as possible, so you definitely want to make sure that you have as much accuracy as you need, right? Ideally try to cap it at 100%. These guys are doing insane damage. But luckily I have Glacial Cascade still that I kept, and it does a little bit of damage. It can pop the Frozen Locus, and that way we can navigate through the zone a little bit safer. You can of course just rely on the bells, but you need to go into the melee range to deal damage. And if you're fighting like rippy stuff that bleeds like this, it's very, very dangerous. The problem with these guys with spears and shields is that they are OP as fuck, of course, because, you know, Greek military might, you know, they knew what they were doing with the spear stuff. Like, spears and shields are so strong in general, and you can actually see it in action. It's kind of nice to see that in the game. It happens to be similar to real life, that spears and shields are like such a powerful combo, because you're not doing damage from the front. They're standing in like tight corridors generally, and you're super far away from them, and you cannot do shit, right? Like, and they are like huge range as well, so they're hitting you. So if you're playing melee, you have a very hard time against that. And if you put the bell, then the bell does area damage that they cannot block, and that's fine. But in order to put the bell down, you need to come close to them and stack it with like a strike skill, which is going to put you in danger and it's going to get you melted. So that's why the Glacial Cascade Frozen Locus combo, keeping it until the end of Act 2, when we're doing this run, I find it very, very useful. I would keep it maybe longer, right? If this was a run where I am leveling and trying to like progress past Act 3, that would help like for waterways. If we were doing that with Frozen Locus, that would be such an easy zone if I had like level 10 Frozen Locus or something in there, and I was able to do that with like high level Frozen Locus. That would be so cool. But unfortunately, you know, we have limitations in terms of skill gems, because in order to use 4 bells, you know, you're spending so much of your gem real estate on that. And you also need shield charge, and you need leap slam, you need ice strike, the 4 bells, you need herald. So you end up just like not having enough space for Frozen Locus as well, and maybe like frost bomb as well, right? You just don't have enough space for all of that. In this zone, if you find the sisters, which give you 10 lightning resistance, you want to pick up the checkpoint and kill the boss, and then go from the checkpoint to the checkpoint on the sisters, put a portal down, and then click it and enter the portal to get the extra resistance. If you are missing XP You're very low on XP, you need to kill a lot of monsters, but you are pretty tanky. Let's say you have like a good armor and you have also a lot of lightning resistance. Then you can click the sisters right away and it's gonna spawn a lot more monsters in the area and allow you to XP faster. This is a pretty decent zone to level if you are really, really far behind. Like if I was like level 24 here or something, then I would clear this zone maybe to get to like 25 or 26 before I go to the Dreadnought. But otherwise, Dreadnought has a really cool spot I'm gonna show you that has a great area to XP where we can get basically a level in 2 minutes. Like every 2 minutes you can get a level. This boss does basically nothing. He is annoying with like pushing you around. He like pushes you to the side and sometimes your bells spawn in a very annoying area, but it's okay. So here it's gonna be Ice Strike that I'm upgrading because I will not necessarily be able to rely on the Frozen Locus for much longer. So that's why we're doing that. Now I am looking for the sisters. There's a blue pack, so I should kill it. My Glacial Cascade doesn't really do that much damage anymore, so I should just use my Ice Strike at this point because Glacial Cascade and Frozen Locust are gonna become a thing of the past. But I think the last area of Glacial Cascade being useful is going to be the Dreadnought, where we have like some packs that are like, you know, stuck in very tight corridors. So yeah, you get the checkpoint. If you're leaving the zone, you wanna first put the portal down, then click on that. Monsters are gonna spawn, but you can just exit. So we're still not level 28. So in the vendors, we can only find like defensive gear. I'm also checking if this stuff has quality so that I can get blacksmith whetstones. And then checking for like any good gear, good amulets, good rings. I'm gonna get this ring, I think, because fire res, 30 fire res and some evasion. It's better than like having an iron ring with a little bit of cold res. This is much more useful for Act 3. Especially for the waterways, like a good amount of fire res is super, super useful. And then we're going to the Dreadnought. So this is like 2 hours and 2 minutes Dreadnought entry, which is fine. I'm not complaining. This is a good run. I think it's one of the better practice runs that I had. And I'm starting to get decent at it, but I'm getting to the point where I have to practice very deliberately and very specific things. But if your time is higher than that, it's gonna be pretty easy to improve, I think, especially since you have a blueprint, right? You can just like follow this. I wanted to share this because I think there is not that many resources for speedrunning, and this is useful even if you're just like want to level regularly, right? You just want to be faster. I think it's a really good time to invest in learning how to level faster at the beginning of Path of Exile 2, because the game is going to release. It's gonna there's going to be new classes, but these skills will really translate. I'm going to give you an anecdote from like a few weeks ago where I started to get into like this speedrunning thing. I wanted to just start getting decent. I decided, okay, I'm gonna do Act 1 on every single class under 1 hour. I'm gonna learn how to do it on every single class. And the first class I tried was Warrior, right? And of course, it took me the longest because it was the first time I was trying to do any of that. And there were some good runs that I could look at, but like Angormus world record run of like 36 minutes or something, he like drops insane gear, and that's not something I can consistently reliably do, right? And I also tried with different setups, and I invented my own setups, did my own random shit, as well as looking at what other strategies people are doing, because I find that fun. I really love coming up with strategies. That's one of my favorite things in the whole game. That's why I like leveling and like making leveling setups. But I did the Warrior, and it took me like a week to get to that point. And then every day I was doing 2 other classes, and like which I did first try. Sork, I did like 2 tries. Monk took a little bit longer. Merc took a little bit longer. Ranger, I'd maybe 1 or 2 tries. Just, try a couple of times for like the first, 10-15 minutes to like see, okay, I use these gems, I use that's how it looks like, okay? And then do a real run and boom, like under 1 hour. And I have a bunch of these things recorded. I have some VODs on my Twitch as well that you can check out. But it was so much easier after learning the first one. Like every single next one that I was doing was so much easier. And so these like speedrunning skills, they translate between classes. So now if they're gonna release like Huntress, I'm gonna try to learn how to level Huntress really quickly, and I'm gonna make some leveling guides, but these skills are gonna translate, so I'm gonna already be much better. Like if I need evasion bases, I know exactly what evasion bases I need to get at what level. I know how to craft the weapons, what are the breakpoints for different weapons, right? I know which areas are dangerous, which areas, you know, require AoE, which area require mobility, which area like this area. For example, this is what I was talking about earlier. This area can give you like lots of XP if you need to like boost up your level, right? So at the end of the first Dreadnought zone, you have this checkpoint here, and you can basically respawn at checkpoint, and then you have a guaranteed couple of blue packs. So there's like 2 blue packs that are spawning here, and you can just kill them over and over again. They're gonna give you a lot of loot. They're gonna give you level 8 skill gems, which is gonna give you a good amount of damage. Yeah, they one-shot me because, you know, hey, we're trying to go faster. Some of them are gonna have like extra damage rolls, and you might wanna reset that because it doesn't cost you much time, right? But yeah, so there is lots of loot that's gonna drop. You're gonna drop like quality, you're gonna drop sockets, you're gonna drop level 8 skill gems that are gonna be great for you know, fighting the boss, right? So you can boost up your levels right before the boss fight. It's perfect for that. So here we're gonna salvage some stuff. We're gonna look for steel point quarter stuff. So there is one that is decent with a decent lightning damage roll. So I would probably want to buy that. I have enough gold to buy it. And you know, I also look for like swathed cap. I look for gloves. I look for steel toe boots because we want to have as much evasion as possible, right? So that is the important part. We also want to get as many regals as possible. Regals are going to be very useful. I am going to want to have also level 30 life and mana flasks. So I have already a little bit better flask that I'm going to try to, you know, help myself to not die to this pack as I'm farming to level 30. And then we also are going to grab some levels for our Tempest Bell now, because the only skills we're going to be using now is basically Ice Strike and the Tempest Bell, so that's what I'm going to be investing this in. And also Wind Dancer, might as well craft it right away. So here I spent some time manipulating my gear and doing stuff, but that could be definitely much more efficient. I could do it in a better way. And then there are some things that I could leave, like crafting this Wind Dancer. I should leave for, like, you know, intermission and boss fight, or waiting for the caravan to move or something. Okay, these guys are chaos resistant. They're pretty dangerous, so you definitely want to be careful. We got a desert rune, we got swathed cap with a socket. Like, there's lots of good stuff that you can get here. And in PoE 2, you'll notice that white monsters don't really drop much loot. Blue monsters drop a little bit of loot, and then rare monsters drop the most, right? It's very, very noticeable. So yeah, these packs are pretty decent. If you find that the packs that are spawning are very tiny, like there's just like 3-4 monsters, whatever, it's like very few monsters, enter the next zone and enter back, but control click and create a new instance. Control click on the entrance to the zone, create a new instance, and it's gonna roll the pack size or pack type again, right? So that will change the monsters that you're getting, and you might get a better roll and get more monsters in this situation. So yeah, these guys have extra crits, so very, very dangerous. I'm being cautious while killing them because, you know, huge pack with extra crits, very, very dangerous. But yeah, we just respawn at checkpoint and just keep doing that. And it's about 2 minutes for a level. I found something like that. Depending on your character power and depending on the class, this might be easier or harder, but it's very good to do. We got some body runes as well. I think I already put one body rune in the helmet, so we get like 60 life plus like 25 on the rune, plus some like life regen or res or whatever on a good evasion base, and we're very, very happy with that. Every time I hit a level, this is a good time to go to town, because then we can see any like steel point quarter staffs. We can see any other gear that we have. That's when you want to go to town, check for gear, and then continue. Sometimes if you, for example, hit, like let's say it's level 28 and I find a steel point quarter staff that has giga rolls, and let's say it has also like accuracy, dexterity, and like T1, like the highest tier physical, the highest tier fire or lightning or something, 2 sockets on it, like just giga weapon, and I have like really, really good gear, I would move on from this area at level 28. You can totally do level 28 Doryani on Monk, but you need good gear. Without good gear, without good amount of accuracy or like huge amount of dexterity on your gear, it is going to be too unreliable. Like you're gonna die too much and your damage is gonna be really, really shitty. And your problem is going to be that in waterways, things are hitting you so hard that you need to clear them. You cannot just like disregard the packs. You need to clear them, but in order to clear them, if you're missing attacks, like you miss a couple of attacks, you're dead already, right? Like, because you didn't freeze the monsters. If you cannot freeze them because you're missing, you're just dead. So that's why at the beginning of Act 3, when we are picking up the extra socket from the jeweler's orb, I use glaciation in my main lengths instead of something else. And if you, depending on the weapon, if you don't have a lot of lightning and fire, you can also put cold infusion to just do maximum cold damage in order to freeze the monsters as much as possible. If you can freeze with like a couple of regular hits, then that's, or even just like chill as high as possible, that's gonna allow you to be safer and be able to stack enough hits so that you can drop the bells and kill them. So that's another tip I can give you for that. So we're hitting level 30 and that's enough. We can go to town, we can check out the inventory and then craft our final weapon. And you could also craft this weapon while waiting for the boss dialogue. I think that's a better way to do it. And this weapon with the +3 to skills, I'm not even going to craft on it. I'm only buying it for the sockets. Honestly, I legitimately bought it just for the sockets. Because if I'm going to, of course, drop an augment on it. Okay, sorry, I lied. I drop an augment. But 99% of the time, I'm not going to use it because I would run out of mana. Like +3 is way too much. You're not going to have enough mana. So now I'm trying to craft a weapon and I am comparing, I'm using a macro, like the price checking macro, because it also shows the DPS. So I'm comparing the DPS, but this one has life per enemy hit. This one has leech. So it's like whatever. But this one has attack speed. So I'm going to exalt the one with attack speed. And I got flat roll of lightning, which is really shit, but I got a really good physical percentage increase, which is good. Like flat physical is also great. Like flat physical, I think is a little bit better maybe than even percentage because these bases don't have that much flat physical. But I got a good weapon nonetheless. This is good enough to go to the end acts. I put one lightning damage rune, I think, and one iron rune because I only had one iron rune. And that's good enough for me. We got strength here because I actually need strength, and I confused myself because I clicked the wrong weapon set. I was like, what the fuck? How did I even do that? What? I put weapon set 1 somehow instead of weapon set 2, and I got confused that I could even do that because it connected from both sides. So now I swapped that and I was so confused like how I did this. But yeah, we're gonna have extra support here that we're gonna use for Unbreakable. You can also use Wind Wave on this, but I'm not using Wind Wave because I'm gonna be swapping in and out Martial Tempo for this Leap Slam. Again, all of this I should do on the way while waiting for the boss. So this is a waste of time that I'm doing that I need to get better at. I'm swapping to slightly better chest. I'm grabbing these gloves to have them with me, and then I'm also gonna put socket in the chest. I think I'm gonna put the body rune in it. If I had like 3 iron runes, I would put iron rune in it even, right? But yeah, this is decent. We can also put these. Again, a waste of time to do it in town. Don't do it in town. Do it while waiting for the boss to, do their dialogue and stuff like that. That would be what I should be doing. The only thing I should do is just like grab everything, refill the flask, like grab a new flask, refill it and go, right? That should just take me like 10 seconds and I should be on my way immediately. But yeah, I'm still getting better, still trying to figure all of these times. So here we're swapping Martial Tempo to Leap Slam. And I could also use the other aura, right? Wind Dancer for the extra evasion. But I did want to kill some stuff here because I do want to get to level 31. Level 31, not only it gives you an extra passive, which I actually do need, but I did fuck up my passives, but that's like a separate thing. But also level 9 skill gems require level 31, and it's like a decent amount of damage. I think it's maybe like 9% more like base damage on the skill gem, something like that. So it's not that big, but it is still worth it. It makes you tankier. It doesn't cost you that much. Just to get one level from like waterways, from any like packs that accumulate while you're wearing Herald of Ice, you can go through these areas, and whenever you see like an insanely massive giant pack chasing you, you can just blow it up in a second and move on, right? And it's going to give you a huge amount of XP. It's not hard to get a little bit of XP. So here, this was a blue pack, so that's why I killed it. I think like 30% XP leaving Dreadnought Vanguard is good enough to hit 31 naturally without really killing anything in Act 3, except for like the bosses and a little bit of things in waterways. If you want to be safe, like 30 and a half, and you're like completely set, right? So like I have enough XP, I shouldn't be killing anything else. So I overkilled a little bit. So there's this intermission here that I should be using to craft my gear. So that was, you know, one of the big mistakes that I did. I literally like spent a minute, right? I could literally save like a minute of time. But yeah, this is where we want to craft, looking which ring is better in order to regal it. I'm regaling this. I think I got some res, which is cool. And yeah, and that's it. We're just basically gonna melt this guy. One attack you wanna be careful for. He spawns these two pillars and they float and they hover for a little bit. Run the fuck away from them because they're gonna one-shot you. They do like huge amount of lightning damage and they hit twice. So the first hit can shock you and then the second one can one-shot you, and they happen like right after another, like one after another super quickly. But yeah, we got him to basically phase at the same time as he did this like sandstorm phase, so that's okay. Not a big deal. We're just gonna wait for him. Again, more time to manage your inventory, which is again why it was such a big mistake that I did it. Like this is where I could like put the rune in my chest and things like that, right? But yeah, I'm dropping anything that I don't need out of my inventory, and then we're just gonna destroy him. But yeah, this guy is actually vulnerable to cold by default, I think, based on what I'm seeing here. So that's pretty cool. He takes a lot of damage from us. We can very easily kill him. He doesn't really have any one-shots here. He has attacks that do like maybe 300 damage, maybe 400 damage to you. So none of that should ever one-shot you. You should have 500 or more life here easily. And if not, then you need to get better at gearing. Like 500 life here is for sure like what you should have. I have 700 because I have decent life on gear, and I have some like life runes that I was able to find and put in the gear. You're not gonna have 700 here most of the time, but 500, no problem. Yeah, I take off my chest and I preemptively swap martial tempo into my leap slam, because I know I'm gonna use that to just traverse the zones, and we can go talk to the hooded guy very quickly. I think this bugs for a moment, so be careful when spamming this dialogue. I think if you spam it too fast, like you're gonna see here, I think something, I don't know, something happens and like I spam it really quickly. Yeah, here, it happened for like a split second and it disappeared, and he just, what? He's not talking. That should be like the whole dialogue that happens. That is the last dialogue, but it just like got skipped somehow. So I don't know how that happened. I guess be careful when spamming like left click and space too quickly. But yeah, we go to the Ardura caravan by relogging. It's a little bit faster than walking back, I think. Should be. And we have our chest taken off. You can look at your gear. We're gonna talk to Asala, and then we're gonna rush. So we are basically gonna rush through this act without killing almost like anything. We have enough damage to kill all the bosses. We have enough survivability to not die while like rushing through things. And I got my Wind Dancer now, so I can disable the Herald. I can move the Herald, swap the bell. I'll try to do it while moving a little bit. And then we can swap to the Wind Dancer and be completely safe. We're gonna kill the big ape for the passive points. We can kill like few packs on the way just to hit level 31. And we're gonna kill all the bosses that are mandatory. But a lot of areas you can actually skip in here, right? All of areas are completely skippable, such as the one that gives you spirit, like the Azak Bog, I think it's called, the poison area, like the poison cave, right, with like the snakes and stuff that gives you a permanent buff. That is skippable as well. There is a bunch of like skippable areas here that are like optional side areas. The place with like molten gold boss or whatever it's called, like that one is also skippable. We don't do that. That one is skippable in general. I think it only gives you a gem. I think they need to improve the incentive for that. They need to give you like, I think it gives you maybe like 1,000 gold or something. I think they should give you like 10,000 gold. Then maybe I could consider doing it. Otherwise, it's not doing. Oh yeah, this is what we do always. We kill these guys. The reason is, of course, they have a guaranteed loot. I think from this basket, I think you don't even need to kill them, maybe. This basket drops the a jeweler, right? That you can get. But of course, the rare guys give you good shit. 2 rare monsters, like right next to each other, that we can AoE down, are very nice. Gives us a Regal. Regal can give you a lot of damage, like on a flat damage on a ring, for example. I would definitely recommend regaling rings first. And then we're going straight to town. If you find the town first, get the checkpoint to it, and then you can travel from these 2 little guys in their cozy camp into the town through just traveling between checkpoints. So I'm gonna regal the ring, and then in town, I find that you wanna talk to the guy that is the vendor, because sometimes you need to sell something to Oswald, right? While you're on the way, just click Oswald. That way you're gonna be able to vendor. There is one particular time where there's actually a good time where you can vendor and look for things. And I actually do find something, I think, in the vendor. So I'm gonna show you when that happens. Yeah, I'm just checking the gems, making sure I put glaciation into my ice strike. We're gonna freeze the bosses, making them safer, and we're gonna freeze anything else we're fighting if we need to. So if you have a lot of monsters, go to the checkpoint. You have to go really close to the checkpoint and then respawn at it. That's gonna remove all the monsters, and you're just basically gonna be able to fight the monkey on its own. So I swap my gems and I'm ready to fight it. You have to learn how does it look like when the monkey does different attacks, just to not get hit by it. I barely get out of the way in time. But yeah, overall it's very easy if you have good enough damage, and even if you don't, like, I find this monkey to be very, very easy if you know like how to look for the attacks. But this is something that you should practice. Like if you die, like especially in Act 1, I find that if you die, it's really cool, like if you're practicing, because you can practice the boss again. And if you are struggling on a boss, right before you kill it, respawn at checkpoint, try to do it again. Like try to practice, look at the attacks, look at the animations, and try to learn, and you're gonna get much better at the fights. Like anybody can improve, like, and it takes some time of getting used to, right? But like with practice, some things that at first see like, this is difficult, this is bullshit, like how am I supposed to deal with that, right? This guy just hit me immediately and just there was no counterplay. What am I supposed to do? Well, just assume it's gonna happen and do something to prevent that, like ahead of time, right? Like if approaching that monkey, like she can slam you, well, expect the slam immediately, and the moment you hear it or see it, go sideways or dodge roll, or like you can always do something. In this zone, it's always the same, at least on Monk. You go straight to the right side to pick up the waypoint and the checkpoint, and then you go up. I saw some speedrunners go up and then go to the checkpoint, but then you have to do additional like travel from checkpoint to checkpoint, which is like 2 seconds or whatever that you're losing. So it's better to go first to the waypoint, and then you're going to the chimeral wetlands, and then you're saving yourself one like not loading screen really, because you don't have a loading screen, but like clicking the checkpoint, finding the other checkpoint and clicking it, you're skipping one of those by doing it in this order. And then in chimeral wetlands, for Monk, typically you want to go straight up and a little bit to the right to find the Chimera. If you go to the left on Monk, at least in SSF, right, in this environment, you're gonna find the entrance to the Temple of Chaos. But if you go a little bit to the right and up, then you're gonna find the Chimera straight away. So I might have gotten a little bit too far to the right, but it's mostly like straight up to the north. And I also think typically if you find these like ruins of pyramids, you're going to in the right direction. And if you see just only plants and forest, then you're going in the wrong direction for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe it's like a selective bias that I have somehow. But I feel like I'm noticing like these ruins that are right next to me on the way to Chimera more than like lack of the ruins, right? The lack of the ruins seems to indicate that I'm going toward the temple, which is a ruin, which is weird, but like, yeah. But yeah. So here I thought I maybe missed it, right? So I just backtrack a little bit just to later not have to backtrack all the way because I thought it might be there to the right, but it wasn't. So it's like straight up, just keep going up, but like sticking a little bit to the right side. So we got a camp. I can click on this. Sometimes this has like an exalt or a regal, so it doesn't take that long. Might as well click it if you still want some extra power. I had very few exalts this run. I think I had 3 exalts this run total, and that's it, which is relatively low. Normally you have like 4 or 5 maybe in a whole run. Oh, here I made a mistake. I tried to go in the wrong direction. So I already was making a mistake because I was on the wrong side of the Chimera. I should be closer to the inside, so I have more areas to dodge into. But it's okay. We're going to have our revenge now. We're going to absolutely booty blast him. Look at this. There is damage. So now he's still stunned, and I still can drop more bells, and yeah, just like completely destroyed. And we got an exalt for it. Nice. So we don't need to pick up anything else. The trial thing is not needed for this run. Here in this area, this is one of the areas where sound is important. So if you're playing normally with music on, like you're just blasting some up tempo and you cannot hear anything that's going on in the game except for loot filter sounds, you will miss a sound cue that happens here. Whenever the core spawns like a couple screens away, you can hear it, and you can hear the direction where it spawns, so you actually know where to go. Like if you have good headphones, you can hear the direction, and that will allow you to hear it outside of the screen, right? So even if you're not playing on like giga wide screen, which is not even allowed in the races, the game just puts black bars and forces you into this aspect ratio. You can still hear it, which is amazing. So this, you can hear this, you can hear the cores, later in the same level, and then you can hear the medium cores in the next level. And then another thing you can hear is sometimes quest items. So if you have a loot filter with, I don't know if it works for every loot filter, but I know the way I do my loot filters, I have custom sounds for a lot of things. And if you're using custom sounds, or if you're using at least like a maybe directional sound or whatever, some specific sounds, you can hear certain quest items, like for example, Renly's tools. So even before I see Renly's tools, I can go like one screen away from it, I can hear it. So I know already that it's spawned, in this side of the zone or in that side of the zone. Unfortunately, there's no checkpoint here, so I get to the end and I don't find the core. I think 90% of the time I find the core on the way, so I just keep going straight up, like diagonally. But in here, it wasn't here, but I'm gonna hear it in a second, so I know it's gonna be like somewhere below me. Yep, there it is. Small core, and we can just go. Going through the zone, if you're rushing, like you should be using shield charge and leap slam, and as much attack speed as you can, and as much move speed as you can, of course. The trick is to... Okay, these guys, I need to kill them because they will actually one-shot me. Maybe with 700 life they don't, but normally I have like 600 life here. Both of them slamming me at the same time one-shots me. So I need to kill them or do it before they move. But what was I saying? Yeah, leap slam and shield charge. So shield charge is the faster way of moving than leap slam, but with shield charge, of course, as you're not killing monsters, you're gonna be blocked by them. So you don't want to shield charge, 2 steps and just hit the monsters. That's gonna slow you actually rather than speed you up, because you cannot shield charge through them, and you still have like this little animation at the beginning and end of a shield charge that slows you down. So you want to find spots where you see no monsters in front of you, and you can Tokyo drift this shit, like in between the monsters, next to the wall, whatever. Like find as many spots as you can for shield charge. Like you can see here, I'm like going as far as I can with the shield charge, because most of the time you cannot, right? So you just find as many spots as you can. Here in this zone, you get the checkpoint, you put the first core that you find, and then you respawn at checkpoint. Because now 2 cores spawn again. So now I can find 2 cores. So I have, more chance to find it on the way because more of them spawn. So now I am going to the second checkpoint. I'm going to reveal more of the map, potentially find it on the way. But if I don't find it on the way, if I don't hear it somewhere, but I think I do hear it. Yeah, I hear it below on the right. So now I know I can pick it up here and just go to the other one. But if I didn't find it and found the other device and the checkpoint, I would go to this checkpoint and respawn at checkpoint again. And now I can look at the minimap and the exclamation mark would appear if it spawned somewhere that would be visible, right? Somewhere where I revealed the area already, it could show on the minimap. So I could see that it's there and just go straight to it. Because again, 2 of them respawn every time you respawn at a checkpoint. This is probably like a bug or something. It should only one be respawning, but we can take advantage of that. And also I want to go, instead of going back through the entire area, we can go portal to town and go back to the G20 Sanctum waypoint, because there's no checkpoint at the beginning, but we can still use the waypoint. If the soul core is not clickable, respawn at checkpoint again, and you're gonna appear at the waypoint, which technically is a checkpoint, but not one you can travel to, and then you have the boss, and then you just melt it, as you're gonna see in like a couple of rotations. This guy can one-shot you with a couple of moves, but relatively harmless otherwise. Nice. The loot always drops where the core spawns, so you can stand right next to it, and you can have portal opened, so you can just enter the portal right away. So again, we're taking off the chest because we're just walking through town. Why be slower by 3% if I can be faster by 3%, right? So we're taking off the chest and we're going to Infested Barrens, and now the craziest, rippiest, most dangerous zone of the entire run, because we are encountering crazy monster types, stuff with spears, which is super dangerous, bleeding and maim, like high physical hits, big packs in tight areas, DD, right, detonate dead, which detonates corpses, just like a whole combination of insane shit, right? Plus these slams, you can see like this guy did like 300-400 damage to me in one hit, right? And this like monk has a really hard time dealing with this shit if you don't have really high evasion, because of course you need to hit 4 times until you get like your actual real damage, right? So it's very, very tricky if you are not confident that you can like skip some packs or whatever. Just like make sure to kill whatever is necessary to kill, right? Because like jumping through this area is easy. That's the easy part. The hard part is like popping the lever, right? Triggering the turning the lever or whatever. So I'm hitting few guys here so that I can have my bells, and then I know that I can just drop the bells and hit these guys right away without having to stack the bells, right? So I can kill them faster, take less damage. There are certain spots in this area, I'll try to point them out, where you can leap slam on the bridge, or you can leap slam down from the bridge to skip little areas of this zone. So that's something that you can look out for as well. And then you also want to try to remember where are checkpoints. So this is super fucking rippy. I'm taking so much damage. And the checkpoints are super important, because if you don't know where the checkpoints are, if you don't take them, you're gonna run out of flask charges. So you can see I'm very low on flask charges, and these guys are all spread and like shooting fucking slings and fire at me. So I'm definitely trying to be really careful and conscious of my flask charges, right? I wanna make sure I'm not like spending all the flask charges. So here I'm looking for a checkpoint. Oh, I'm going back to town. Okay. If you are doing the race format, where if you die, you lose a minute, or you have to wait for a minute, if you're in the race environment or trying to practice for the race environment, portal out if you run out of flask charges and just refill your flasks. This will cost you less than 1 minute. If you have no flask charges, you are very, very likely going to die. So just portal back to town, refill your flask charges. It's gonna save you time in the long run, right? This is something that you can do like at any point. If you feel like there's no checkpoint nearby, you're gonna die, you don't know what to do, just portal, refill this, and you're gonna be fine. Because unless you have like huge regen, huge leech or something, and you don't care about your flask charges and you just press them for fun. But most of the time, this is going to be something pretty necessary to do. You can also respawn a checkpoint to restore your life, but it doesn't refill your flask charges. This was very, very rippy, but you know, this is a matter of experience. Like, I know I'm most likely not dying there, so I'm continuing to stand my ground and attack to kill them before they kill me, right? Oh yeah, this is a huge mistake. So this is my last level, and I clicked this shitty 10% increased damage node instead of 30% damage if you ignited an enemy recently. But yeah, we're upgrading our skill to level 9. Getting some stuff. I know there's probably a checkpoint here. Yeah, there's a checkpoint on the left. That's like a hidden one you can see on the left, where you can just like refill your flask charges and also pick it up so that if you die, you respawn closer, right? That's probably one of the primary also like reasons why you want to click on these checkpoints, right? If you have enough evasion and a better shield, especially better shield, because my shield is shit. I have like 25% chance to block only or something like that. So that's pretty terrible. If I had a good shield and it was like, you know, 37 or 39% chance to block, something really good, and I had this amount of evasion that I have and like good passives, you can have like 80% evasion and 39% chance to block. You can click the levers without hitting the monsters, even on Monk, right? If you have good defensive gear, you can click the levers and just ignore the monsters and go through the entire zone, basically killing nothing. It will speed you up a little bit. But maybe pack like this, you would still have to kill. Like if there's really a lot of mobs, you do have to kill them. But it will make it possible so that you can click some of the levers without killing mobs. Like this pack could maybe be ignored, right? And I could just like click the lever that's above. So that's something also to keep in mind. And it's one of the reasons why, you know, we're upgrading our evasion bases at the right time to, you know, have maximum defense for this area. So far, I don't think I died in the waterways. I died in less of like stupid situations earlier, but we didn't die on this. And also you can dodge roll as soon as the lever finished its motion and the lever is turned, then you can dodge roll and it will take you out of the animation a little bit quicker. But yeah, this is again experience. People literally practice this zone alone over and over and over in order to get good at it, even on like Warrior, which has I think a little bit easier time than a Monk in this zone. The reason is Warrior has a lot of armor, which helps here, which allows you to just like tank this shit so easily, and it has more life because you're a strength character, so you are picking a lot of strength nodes on the way and only like a couple of dex and int nodes, and we are mostly like a dex character, right? So we have like accuracy. They don't need accuracy because they got RT, but we need accuracy, we need that dex for requirements, and we also have evasion, which means we can get stunned easier, right? Because even though we might avoid more hits, we are gonna get stunned and take more damage. Here you can do a little optimization, put a portal down, kill the mobs that are chasing you, and then click the big lever, and then as the lever is being turned, you can actually spam the portal and you can enter the town instead of having to wait for the map to open, the animation of the water going down, and that you close the map, then you spawn the portal. You waste a lot of time, right? So might as well do this. We're taking off the chest and we're just walking downwards. This is where we can like do some optimization to our gear and gems, because we're gonna be going through the drowned city. And the drowned city, I think I saw like Sarge on his stream talk about how people are really afraid of this zone, and like they're saying like it takes a year to finish, it takes an hour to go through this zone. So let's see how long does it take me to go through this zone. So we are at 39 minutes, like 2 hours 39 minutes. Let's see how long it takes to navigate through this zone, because I think I got the layout of the zone pretty much down, and it's always the same. Well, there are small variations, right? But you generally follow like the main path. You can see this main path, how it looks like, and it might go a little bit down at the beginning and then to the right, or to the right immediately, but you're going like down right and then up right? That's how you're going through this zone. So far it's been 30 seconds in this zone. We're halfway through. It might be like only just a minute to go through it, honestly, like less than 2 minutes for sure. Of course we're not killing anything, right? But even if you were killing something, it would take you like, you know, a couple minutes more, because it doesn't take that long to kill these packs. So this is yeah, 52 seconds, 53 seconds, 55 seconds, let's say, right? So less than a minute to go through the zone. So definitely not the longest. And the apex of filth is also another zone that people get lost in. I'm going to explain this layout as well as I can. So this zone has basically the same layout every time, as far as I know, but it is flipped in different directions, right? Or like mirrored in different directions. So when you go through this first gateway, you want to figure out which way the spiral goes, left or right. In this case, I know that on the right side, like top right, I see nothing. There is no pyramid there. The pyramid ends. So I know it's going to be the other way. So it's going to the left. So we're going to hug the left wall. Like if you look at my character, it's walking, if it's walking down, technically it's the right wall, right? But it's like the inside wall. And we're going to go in this like spiral into the inside of the pyramid. That's basically what you're doing the whole time. If it, kind of like in a maze, right? If you're lost in a maze, you can always stick to one wall and it's going to lead you to the exit, right? Even though if you're going to I still have to go down and up here and so on, but I'm following this wall and I roughly know where I can cut a little corner and so on, but I'm following this inside wall and you're going the right way if you're passing these gateways, right? You can see this gateway and a checkpoint and okay, I progressed. I went to the more of an inner circle, right? And again, we're sticking to this left wall. I know it's gonna go to the right now, right? But I'm still sticking to it to know I didn't miss anything. So I don't have to count how many, streets I have to pass or whatever. Just sticking to the inner wall and you're gonna end up at the boss very, very easily, right? And didn't get lost for a second here. This boss is very, very dangerous. She can one-tap you with many abilities. Being in melee is probably the best. So ideally you want to be as close to her as possible, but I am going to be going in and out. I'm not going to be greedy. I'm going to try to dodge as much as I can. If the plants start exploding, the orange plants or mushrooms rather, I'm just going to dash away, right? I could hit her more, but I'm just going away a little bit and I'm waiting, making sure, okay, I'm safe, I can attack, right? So if I see my life is lower or she's doing a slam or whatever, I'm just going to dodge a little bit away, but go immediately back to her so that she doesn't do the roly-poly leap slam thing. And yeah, we just pick up the door idol and iron ring, and then we can go to the checkpoint, go through, click the wrong checkpoint, go to the checkpoint that is next to the waypoint, and it's a little bit faster to travel to the drowned city and then go up to the entrance to the ziggurat instead of going to town and then walking this very, very long staircase down. So this is slightly faster. Of course, depends a little bit on the loading screens, right? Which depend on a lot of factors like server connection sometimes, right? Sometimes this is takes longer, sometimes less, but in general, this is faster. We got actually a huge amount of damage on this ring. So this is something I could potentially use if I don't need fire res, but in the zone I'm entering, the Temple of Kopek, the fire res is huge. So here it's pretty easy to find the exit, especially on the second level. On the first level it's random. If you don't see it to the close left, then you can respawn at the checkpoint and check out close right. That's the fastest way to check out the most entrances. And then of course you go to the top of it if you don't find it. And in the second floor, if you go to one side and if you encounter a crevice that is impassable, that you have to leap slam over, otherwise you cannot pass, then that's the right direction. If you don't encounter a crevice that you have to jump over, that's the wrong direction, so you immediately know you can go to the other corner. So you'll see, I'll go up and then I'll see, okay, there is no crevice that blocks me here. I just immediately go to the other corner and it's correct, right? Yeah, so here there is no crevice that blocks me from going up. I'm like, okay, this is the wrong direction. This has to be to the top left. So we're going to the top left and it's going to be there. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below as well, because this run is going to be finished soon. So we're going to wrap it up, but also I'm going to post as much information as I can in the mobalytics. So that's going to be linked below. You can see all the setup, like what gems I'm using, when to swap the gems, like different situational things, what gear to focus on, and the passives and how we're doing the passives, especially because I'm sure there's not that much time that you can see this on the screen, because of course I'm trying to do things as quickly as possible. But yeah, this boss is relatively easy. He has only one attack that is dangerous, where he shoots spikes in the air. The moment you kill him, you put a portal down, and then you talk to Alva, and then Alva has a couple of voice lines, and then I think the third voice line that starts with wait, something, something, that's when you enter the portal. So she said 2 lines, and then the third line that starts with wait, no, blah, blah, blah. That's when you enter the portal, when she says that line. And that way you're going to be able to have some time for the vendor. So the portal is still going to appear. We can talk to Oswald, and we can actually look in the shop for something, right? So I closed it, but I was like, oh, wait a minute, there was a belt, plate belt with lots of armor. Nice, right? So I'm gonna wear that belt. It's gonna give me a little bit of extra survivability. Take off the chest here, go down, and Utsal has set layout as well for monk that is usually the same. There's 2 variations of it, but generally you follow the main street to the bottom right and then to the top right. So you're gonna see the main street I'm following. Sometimes it goes down. I think in this case even it might go down. And that's fine, you have to go down, otherwise you're gonna end up in a dead end. So you see this like main road that is like, has these like horizontal lines throughout the like the paved way. You need to follow that basically, right? So you see it turns to the right and left, you always go to the right down here, and then it goes down. So we're gonna go down with it. I think there might be a way to cross a bridge and like join it later, but the safest way is to go down with it, because sometimes it doesn't, right? So this is like the safest way to guaranteed get to the boss fight. So now the moment it goes up, we go back up, right? Because that's where Viper boss is going to be. Yeah, we have enough damage, so I think these bosses are not a problem. This boss is probably more dangerous than Doryani. I think it's probably the most dangerous fight because we don't have chaos res, right? I have 40 fire res, right? I have huge fire res, I have some lightning res. I don't need the fire res, so I'm gonna wear a little bit more damage. But a very, very dangerous boss fight. So we're gonna try to do our best, and she drops a guaranteed level 2 support jump, like a tier 2 support jump, and that's gonna be primal armament, which we're gonna put in our ice strike instead of the glaciation. You can dodge this spear, and then of course, since we're melee, this is fucking a nightmare fighting her, right? We always have to stand in some damage, and it's basically a battle of like kill her faster than she kills you a lot of the time. There's of course a lot of dodging you can do, but a lot of the time just like the best solution is to just have more damage. I have really good damage here, so I was able to skip a lot of it. She has one intermission where she like flies around and spawns circles where you can actually hit her, so you can still do damage to her. But there's like poison puddle as well on the ground all of the time, and if you're hitting her in that, you're taking just so much damage, it's better to just wait. And here, similar to before, we're going down to the right and following the main road. And then the main road is gonna turn up, and then that's where the exit is going to be. Sometimes it's the first street up, sometimes usually it's like the second street up, but it's like the thing that follows the main road. So you need to learn to like recognize the main road. So we get some belt here, and we're gonna go through Agorat. In Agorat, again, we're not killing anything. If you wanted to, if you feel like super weak and you have like an insane power spike, you could try to go for the sacrificial heart, but because we are so under leveled here, this is insanely rippy. And because I don't have a good shield, luckily I did a good job with my evasion and crafted good bases, but I didn't find a shield that had block chance, so I am completely screwed on that front, and I would have like 12% more avoidance or something, which is pretty huge. But we don't have that, so we're gonna be taking some damage here, and it's gonna be a little dangerous. Hopefully I don't die here. I don't remember if I died here. Yeah, this is one of the more dangerous parts. You want to get as close to these guys as you can and then leap slam through them. And these layouts are usually the same as well. So first it's either to the right or the left, and then it's typically the opposite. And then you enter, like you kind of learn to navigate it. Like I know where the center line goes through this area, and I'm going to the center line, and you know, I know exactly like where to go, so I don't spend any extra time. But it takes experience basically. But you learn to recognize this pattern if you do this zone a bunch. Okay, so now we put glaciation back into our bell, and then I can craft the other gems when I get to the boss and wait for the intermission, right? So we're not wasting any time. This zone has some dangerous monster packs. Like, I think, is it in this run or in another run? I think maybe, oh yeah, this run. You can look at this. Immediately respawn at checkpoint. There is a temporal bubble, like a hasted rare or something, like whatever. I don't know if it was haste or something else. It looked like haste. Like 2 rare mobs with crazy stuff. I'm already low on HP. I would just die. So this was like a good respawn at checkpoint situation because I was already close to the beginning of the zone, so I didn't lose much time. But it was insanely rippy, and I was almost guaranteed to die there. So that's where you can respawn at checkpoint. So don't be afraid to do that. Even like in regular leveling, if you see something you don't like, respawn at checkpoint, no problem, right? Like if you're starting the game and you're in Act 1 and you're fighting Ariadne, the witch, and you're playing melee and she spawns with like fire trail and the purple volatile plants, just like immediately reset that stuff. Don't even bother. Like do her again with better mods. You're saving yourself time and you're faster by doing that. Here, this is another one of those zones where you just go straight up to the left, like top left as the zone goes, and you don't want to veer too far away from the center of the zone, and then you're just gonna find this. This is a very, very easy zone to navigate. And yeah, so here we craft the primal armament, and we get the martial tempo as well. So rage, primal, martial, and then we have the rest of our supports and the bells. And he does like a big jump, so I'm waiting for him to do the jump. There it is. And then I put the rest of my bells, and then I do the actual damage to him. And I think I might have not pushed him enough to phase. Okay, he's frozen, but he's doing an explosion, which you can't see now. So I'm waiting. There it is. Don't want to accidentally like get high rolled crit or whatever and die. So we put more bells, and I thought this is I thought this is enough damage for him to be phased, but I think he's like not quite enough. I think I missed a little bit of damage. Oh yeah, now I thought it's enough, right? Because this looks like 50% HP, but it might be like 51, so he might not be phased yet. So I think that was a mistake. I should have hit him a couple times more, but I was just like waiting for him, like come on, where's the next phase? But I think I left him at like maybe even like less than 51%, but above 50. Like it's barely there. So now I take him a little bit lower. Now I know, okay, now he's for sure phased, but unfortunately he summoned the device in the middle again. And if he summons the device in the middle, it has to go through this like 3 cycles or whatever of like doing the lasers until he can proceed to the next phase. So that was a mistake on my part, where I think I wasted a lot of time on this fight, where I was slower than I should have been. Yeah, but now he's phased for sure. Now we just need to wait for him to finish his, random bullshit go. It's just checking gear, it's just a habit that you build. As you're waiting for the boss, you just look at your gear, like see stuff like, okay, what can I do? What can I upgrade or whatever, even though it's the end of the run. Yeah, here we're gonna do damage relatively quickly. Again, if you die, just keep doing this fight over and over. Learn all of his attacks, learn all of his tells. I get frozen and he gets frozen at the exact same time. That was funny. I'm being pretty greedy here by not moving away from every single attack. You can definitely afford to move out of his attacks a little bit more, especially when you have this much damage. Like, it's not gonna really hurt you. This is really important attack to learn how to dodge and learn the tell of it, because it can absolutely one-shot you. But yeah, here we just one-shot him, and slash played time is 148 and then 9 deaths. So in the race format, it would be 257, right? 257, so still sub 3 hours. So I am happy with like any sub 3 hours. I'm very happy with sub 3 hour monk run, especially like if not like perfect RNG, right? If there's still things that could be much better in terms of RNG, I could get a better shield, I could get movement speed boots in Act 1, could get a better weapon, like there's a lot of stuff, but definitely it was still decent RNG, like not bad by any means. Like something like that in a race, I would be very happy with if I had this type of RNG. Like I would be very happy with this. But yeah, hopefully you learned a lot. Very, very long video, but I wanted to post this whole run, but I wanted to also give you some context and commentary, because I think a lot of people would find it useful to just learn something rather than just like watch. You can find runs by different people, right? But it's really hard to like know exactly why people do everything that they're doing, right? So hopefully you learned something from this. Check out the Mobalytics guide for this setup in the description, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.